Chapter 85. Jiu Yi took a look at Yi Hua, and seeing that Yi Hua did not plan to say anything, Jiu Yi patted Yi Hua's hand. Let's talk inside. This matter is not a small matter, it can be big or small. Lord Jiu's words shocked everyone. Big or small? What did he mean? Yi Hua, on the other hand, was hugging on to Qinya to prevent her from showing the pity of a woman. Towards Jiu Ye's words, Yi Hua wasn't the slightest bit interested. Yehua, let go of me. Qinya said in a low voice, feeling a little embarrassed. Yi Hua said faintly, you have been hugging me for the entire night, and now that I'm hugging you, that's all. Alright, you can go and sleep on the sofa tonight. You. Why are you so stingy? There are so many people here. You can hug me all you want when we get home. Follow me? Humph, don't forget what you said before. In any case, I'm a weak woman. If you want to use force, there's nothing I can do. However, I will despise you. Qinya flipped her hair indifferently. I am so beautiful and sexy, it is inevitable for Yi Hua's beastly heart to burst out when I am hugging onto him at night. She could understand him, but she would also despise him. Yi Hua took a faint look at Qinya. You? That's for the best. Remember that look of disdain in your eyes. In the future, even if you beg me, I won't agree. Yi Hua took a deep breath. Do I even need to request anything from you? Seeing that Yi Hua was angered to the point that he was taking a deep breath, Qinya did not continue on. Right now, she had learned to not go overboard. Raising her small hand, Qinya smacked towards Yi Hua's butt. Yi Hua looked at Qinya in disbelief, and after a while, he said gravely, Qinya, I will teach you a lesson tonight. TCH, I won't bow down to evil forces. You will lower your head. Yi Hua's right hand tightened, and Qinya cried out in surprise, and her entire body fell into Yi Hua's embrace. This bastard, he didn't even know where he was. Everyone else was sad. Yi Hua expressed that it was none of my business. Boss, let's go in and talk, Lord Jiu said in a low voice. If the boss didn't move, he wouldn't dare to move. As for the wealthy businessman behind him, he saw that Lord Jiu didn't move, so he didn't move either. He just watched the couple in front of him being lovey-dovey. Qinya wished that she could dig a hole and hide herself. Originally, it was already very awkward for her to come out wearing this set of clothes, but I didn't expect that when I turned around just now, those people would be following behind me. Everyone was speechless. Qin family had a great background in Long and City, and right now, they were even preparing to take root in Zijin City. Although there was still a gap between them and those big families in Zijin City, in any case, they were still able to squeeze into Zijin City. As for this man, he was very mysterious. He didn't look like a gigolo. The group arrived at a side room in Clear Harmony Garden. Yi Hua and Qinya sat down, and Yi Hua said faintly, you two can chat. Everyone sat down, and Lord Jiu let out a sigh of relief. Everyone, I am also very sorry that such a thing happened, but the dead cannot come back to life. Now that the culprit has been caught, everyone's hearts can be appeased. As for the Bai family, in fact, it is not good for you or me if this matter is blown up. Li Qianyi disagreed. Ninth Master, our children were murdered in the first-class clubhouse, so the Bai family has to take responsibility. That's right, Director Li is right. Jia Gao Ao agreed. Lord Jiu, it can't be that you're afraid of the Bai family and that's why you're siding with them, right? Yu Yixi asked solemnly. Lord Jiu said helplessly, I can understand everyone's feelings. It's fine if you want to pursue the Bai clan's responsibility, but you need some time. You can't be thinking of killing your way over, right? Ninth Master, no matter how powerful the Bai family is or how high their status is, they should give us an explanation for what happened. Han Wei's face turned cold. Yi Hua finally understood. These people are afraid of Bai family and want to use Xiao Jiu as cannon fodder. However, how could these little rich merchants have the guts to challenge the Bai family? Although they were standing on the side of reason, it was still unusual. That was how humans were. They schemed against each other and schemed against each other. It was the same even when they were playing games. That's right. Do you think we, the South, are afraid of the North? Li Qianni said boldly as if he wanted to start a war with the North. Yihua held on to his chin and asked, Qinya, how is this by family? By family is very strong, especially by family's women. The woman that Wang Debao married yesterday is a woman from by family. Qinya said in a low voice. How many wives does Wang Debao have? Yihua asked. Why do you care about that? How many? Qinya said coldly, Wang Debao is very single-minded, he only has one wife. This Wang Debao is indeed a bit interesting. Yihua said faintly. Which of those who have a bit of strength doesn't have a bunch of wives and concubines? That Xiao Yi, and that Tang Wushuang. Qinya mumbled, but he dotes on his wife a lot. You mean that I don't dote on you? Yihua asked back. Qinya put on a straight face, have you ever doted on me before? Yihua could be seen leaning towards Qinya's ear and saying in a low voice, that night, I doted on you a lot. Scoundrel. Qinya couldn't help but shout out and raised her little fist. Unfortunately, her little fist was grabbed onto by Yihua. Everyone present looked towards Yihua and Qinya in unison. We are discussing about a big matter, and yet, you two are flirting with each other. This is truly infuriating. What are you looking at? Have you never seen a husband and wife quarrel before? Yihua said coldly. Everyone was speechless. You are obviously the one who disturbed us, and yet, you are the one who is complaining first. Yihua, don't be like this. Qinya said petulantly. After this fellow is done acting cool, I have to clean up after him. Qinya laughed lightly, everyone, I'm sorry, my husband, Wu. Before Qinya could finish speaking, Yihua covered Qinya's mouth. Is there a need for me to explain? Jiu Yi blushed with shame, the boss is indeed awesome. I am just like this. Yihua said faintly, then let go of his hand. Let's see how you are going to smooth things over. Qinya was very angry, can't you speak properly? It is enough for you to use this kind of tone to talk to me, but to still act like this when going out, you are going to make enemies. Everyone was still unclear of Yihua's background, thus they decided to bide their time. After all, even Jiu Yi had to call him boss. Everyone, I am late. A man who was wearing a green gown could be seen walking over slowly, and behind him was a young man who was also wearing a green gown and carrying a long sword on his back. If Qin Yutong was here, she would definitely recognize this green gown man. He was that Dao defender who beat the dog until it vomited blood. Deacon Jian, you are finally here. Everyone hurriedly stood up and greeted. This Deacon Jian is incredible. I heard that he is the deacon of a certain sect in the cultivation world, and also the contact person of Long and City. Deacon Jian, why were you tied up in the park this morning? Jia Gaoao really touched on the sore spot. Jian Yuan's face sunk, then he laughed and said, something went wrong when I was training yesterday, causing my power to be greatly damaged, and I also met with a ferocious beast. You are the dog abuser who was tied up on the tree this morning? Qinya asked curiously, but after asking, she immediately regretted it. This is very rude. The air instantly froze, Jian Yuan's face turned white and red, and even the small cultivator who was following behind him felt embarrassed. Qinya, how can you speak like that? He is a cultivator. Yihua said calmly. Qinya was shocked. Ah, he is even a cultivator. Yihua laughed. Jian Yuan was about to bleed internally. Everyone was already scared out of their wits. Jiu Yi was convinced, this husband and wife are really good at slandering people. Chapter 86. The atmosphere at the scene was already awkward to the extreme. Qinya wished that she could bite Yihua to death. The words that I used just now had the intention of belittling him. I really didn't know that he was a cultivator. Qinya could be heard saying apologetically, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to slander you. Jian Yuan, everyone, Qinya opened her beautiful eyes wide, feeling that she had said the wrong thing again. Really, being pregnant makes one foolish for 3 years. No. I must have been infected by Yihua, he is going to take the blame for me. How could Jian Yuan be calculative with an ordinary person? There were rules in the cultivation world. One cannot harm an ordinary person, if not, one would definitely be punished. Young lady, it's fine. Jian Yuan didn't know how he was feeling right now. It might be the same as yesterday night, that kind of sullen, that kind of powerlessness. Yihua reminded, she is not a young lady anymore. Qinya rolled her eyes at Yihua. Is this fellow really going to anger me to death before he stops? Jian Yuan laughed dryly, then said to everyone, everyone, please calm down. I have already reported the matter that happened at noon to the sect. I believe that everyone will be given a satisfactory answer. After all, our south is not that easy to bully. Deacon Jian Yuan is indeed wise. I admire you. Li Qianyi cupped his hands and said with a smile. Jia Gao Ao said heroically, Deacon Jian Yuan, let's not talk about anything else. I will donate 10 million to add food for your esteemed sect. Me too. Yusis shouted out too. Me too. Shen Tao took a look at Qinya and shouted out too. Jian Yuan thanks everyone here. Forget about the money. I have a presumptuous request. Jian Yuan smiled with his hands behind his back. He had the demeanor of an expert, and his temperament became faintly discernible, not at all like a person who was being hung up. Han Wei said, Jian Yuan is too polite. If there is anything you need, just say it. As long as it is within my capabilities, I will definitely do my best. Actually, it's nothing much. I heard that everyone bought a mountain together and is preparing to develop it. My sect is also interested. The money will naturally be given to everyone, and also my sect's miraculous medicine. Hearing that, everyone's expression immediately stiffened for a moment, but they who were cunning also instantly came back to their senses. Yihua could be considered to know what Jian Yuan was planning. From the looks of it, the reason why these few people dared to be so arrogant was all because of that mountain, and this Jian Yuan was planning to get a share of the loot. Lord Jiu was also a little puzzled. Recently, they had indeed teamed up to develop a mountain. More accurately, it was a few mountain peaks. At that time, he didn't have high hopes for it because it was too remote. Now that Jian Yuan mentioned it, he immediately knew what they were thinking. No wonder they dared to be so arrogant. They had probably obtained some treasures, or they wanted to create a diversion and create chaos first. Only then would they be able to sit back and enjoy the benefits of others. Just that, how did Jian Yuan know about it? Also, what kind of treasure was inside that mountain? Thinking back to why Xiao Yi wanted to invest in Long and City, could it be that it was also because of this mountain? Instantly, Lord Jiu's curiosity was piqued. Qinya stealthily sized up the two cultivators. In the past, I have only seen cultivators in movies or novels, but now that I am standing in front of real cultivators, why do I feel that they are so unreal? Even my view of the world has changed. Are they able to step on the small swords on their back and fly? That was way too powerful. What are you thinking about? Yihua asked. Are they really cultivators? Qinya was still unable to believe the fact before her eyes. Yihua said faintly, actually, I am also a cultivator. Qinya immediately rolled her eyes. Qinya, your ability to roll your eyes has improved a bit. Yihua, your ability to brag is getting better and better. Yihua laughed lightly, what if I am a cultivator? You are? I, Qinya, write my name backwards. There is no need for that, as long as you promise to listen to me obediently. You cannot go west when I say east. Yihua revealed out a mysterious smile, causing Qinya to become flustered. Qinya's eyebrows wrinkled slightly. What kind of tricks is this fellow trying to play again? All right. If you are not a cultivator, then you have to listen to me, and in the future, you have to peel crayfish for me. All right. Yihua agreed very straightforwardly. This woman actually dares to make such a bet with me. She is truly silly to the point of being adorable. Yihua could be seen taking out his phone and turning on the recording, in view of the fact that sometimes, you always run your mouth off, I have to record it. You are the one who runs your mouth off. Qinya couldn't help but raise her voice, causing everyone that was sitting at the table to have a headache. Jian Yun laughed lightly, Madam, can you lower your voice a bit? We are currently discussing some matters. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Qinya hurriedly nodded her head and apologized. Yihua said faintly, you all be quiet, don't create trouble for me. It wasn't easy for Yihua to trick Qinya, so he mustn't let her down. After adjusting the recording, Yihua said, speak. Towards Yihua's childlike actions, Qinya was helpless and said, if Yihua is really a cultivator, Qinya, promise to be obedient in the future, Yihua will be my sky, alright? Yihua was very satisfied and kept his phone. You are a cultivator as well? Jianyun asked curiously, I am unable to see through this man's cultivation. Yihua nodded his head. Loose cultivator? Yihua said, self-cultivation. That's right, Yihua is self-cultivating. Could it be that an undead wants to enter the human world to learn? You are thinking too much, even the other races look down on the undead, they are just like street rats. Your distinguished self said that you are a cultivator, how about you give me a few moves? The young man that was with Jianyun said. He had long disliked Yihua. Forget that Yihua is handsome, even his wife is so beautiful. Yihua suddenly said coldly, since you all were rude to my wife, I shall properly teach you all a lesson. Yihua, stop messing around. Qinya shook Yihua's arm. It is one thing for you to act cool in front of your wife, after all, we are all family, but now, you even went to act cool in front of others. Yihua patted onto the back of Qinya's hand. Qinya, remember what you said just now. Suddenly, Yihua stretched out his index finger, and a purple flame appeared out of nowhere. That bewitching color made people unable to take their eyes off of the purple flame. When that purple flame shone onto Yihua's face, it made people exclaim in admiration. Yihua flicked out his finger, and the purple flame landed on the ground. The flame did not extinguish, nor did it melt the ground, as if it was just an illusion. Qinya, who was at the side, was already stunned. Yihua can't be playing magic right, but this is too strange, right? An even stranger thing could be seen happening. That purple flame actually slowly twisted and formed into a head and 4 limbs. Just that. Why is there a bottle gourd on the head? That's right, this is the bottle gourd brother that Yihua transformed into, the embodiment of justice, the spokesperson that fights against the strong and helps the weak. The purple bottle gourd brother seemed to have a life of its own as it looked left and right, sizing up everything, just like a super cute little pet. However, the size of the purple bottle gourd brother was even smaller than a rabbit by half. Qinya? Yihua looked towards Qinya, seemingly asking her if she admitted defeat. Qinya looked at Yihua dumbfoundedly. Even if you beat her to death, she wouldn't believe that my man is actually a cultivator. How is this possible? Thinking back to the things that happened these few days, so he wasn't acting cool, and what he said was all true. Chapter 87. Qinya's brain was unable to function normally and was currently in a frozen state. Not to mention Qinya, everyone, including Jiu Yi, was stupefied. Even Jian Yuan was stupefied. To casually create a living spirit, how is this possible? The face of the young man at the back was filled with disbelief. How can he be a cultivator? This is definitely fake. Evil arts of the pugilistic world, watch my sword. The young man immediately pulled out his sword and stabbed towards the Calabash brother. I want to expose his lies and let everyone here know that he is a gigolo. I also want that beauty to know that he is a swindler. The purple Calabash brother looked at the incoming sword curiously and did not move at all. However, the sword that was glowing with white light easily pierced through the body of the Calabash brother. Everyone couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. A complacent look appeared in the young man's eyes. He even looked towards Yihua, seemingly saying that this little thing is not much, I killed him easily. Yihua did not say anything and poked Qinya's forehead. Stupid. Qinya came back to her senses and said, you are the stupid one. How do you want to deal with them? You decide. Yihua said indifferently. In any case, I didn't do it myself, so I didn't break the rules. Qinya punched Yihua. What do you mean deal with them? Your Calabash brother was pierced through the heart. Pierced through the heart? Yihua smiled and did not say anything. The purple Calabash brother touched the sword and seemed to be very curious. However, just this small action of his made everyone gasp in shock. He didn't die. The young man turned pale with fright and tried to pull the sword out with his right hand, but the Calabash brother grabbed onto the sword and seemed to be very unhappy. "This is my toy. Back off." Jian Yuan shouted lightly. "Deacon, I can't pull it out." The young man was very helpless. Just what the hell is this Calabash brother? Suddenly, a purple light emitted out from the hand of the Calabash brother, and the sword was instantly wrapped up. The young man revealed a look of shock and immediately let go of the sword. The Calabash brother swung his hand, and the purple sword floated in the air, looking very dazzling. "Qinya, do you want them to live or die?" Yihua asked Qinya, who was absent-minded. Qinya looked at Yihua blankly. She was getting more and more confused about Yihua. Just what kind of person is he? He knocked on the silly woman's head and said, "You look pretty cute in this adorable way." Why did you knock my head?" Qinya rubbed onto her head petulantly. "You haven't answered me yet." "Answer what?" "They have offended you. It's not like other people did it on purpose. Forget about it, forget about it," Qinya said in a low voice. In the end, Qinya was still just a little woman. After hearing what Qinya said, Yihua let out a sigh. "Qinya, you should know that offending you is equivalent to offending me. Have you ever thought about it?" After hearing that, Qinya remained silent. "I'll let it go this time, but don't make the same mistake next time." As the wife of a supreme overlord, not only did she have to consider herself, she also had to consider her husband's face. Qinya bit her lips, not knowing what she was thinking. However, everyone listened to the conversation between the couple. They were simply showing off to the extreme. What did they mean by offensive? Did they think they were emperors? However, they only dared to think about it and didn't dare to say it out. They were afraid that the purple sword in the sky would give them a chill. At noon, the juniors were all annihilated. Could it be that the seniors are going to die together with them at night? Jiu Yi finally understood the advice that his big brother gave him before he died. This boss is truly a cultivator, and his strength is even stronger than Jian Yuan, truly formidable. The purple Calabash brother lightly leaped onto the purple sword that was floating in the sky, then began flying around. That small posture of his was like he was skiing, showing that he was having a lot of fun. "Mr. has great strength." Jian Yuan cupped his hands and said. Yihua said, "Didn't you say that you wanted to spar with me?" Jian Yuan's heart sunk. This Calabash brother looks very childish, but from the looks of it, his strength has definitely reached a terrifying level. Spar with me is completely seeking death. Mr.'s strength is extraordinary. We are not Mr.'s opponent. We have offended you just now. I hope that Mr. will not blame us. Jian Yuan let out a sigh of relief. A good man should know when to yield and when to advance and when to retreat. What's the use of acting cool for a moment? Yihua felt that it was alright to speak like this. According to his temperament in the past, he would definitely ignore his begging for mercy, but thinking from the perspective of a human, he would definitely want to obtain a greater benefit. Since you are sincerely lowering your head and begging for mercy, then I will spare your life. Yihua said indifferently. Jian Yuan looked as if he had eaten a fly. How am I begging for mercy? I am just praising you. Alright, that's right, this can only be counted as a disguised form of begging for mercy, but aren't you not giving me any face at all? Right now, everyone didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Even Jian Yuan Deacon has to lower his head and admit his mistake, then what do we count as? That purple sword that was floating in the sky was like a death sentence. Whoever dares to speak carelessly would have their heart pierced through. Jian Yuan Deacon, since the boss has already spared your life, you should smile, don't frown. Jiu Yi suddenly stood up and said with a smile, having the intention of hugging onto Yihua's thigh. Why the F*** am I supposed to smile? Will I beg for mercy? I will never beg for mercy in my entire life. This is the last time I will beg for mercy, next time definitely won't, no. There won't be a next time. Why did you all butt in? Yihua asked curiously. Jian Yuan went into a daze, then played dumb and said, Mister, what do you mean? Baiu. The purple sword had already appeared in between Jian Yuan Deacon's eyebrows. Calabash Brother was lying on the body of the sword, posing like a drunk concubine. If not for the fact that the situation wasn't right, Qinya would definitely laugh out. Jian Yuan didn't know why, but his body was already out of control. This sword might was too huge, but it was only released by Calabash Brother, who was lying on the body of the sword, and from start to finish, that man had only thrown out a purple flame. Think about what I mean. Yihua said unhurriedly, while playing with Qinya's finger. It was rather tender and smooth. Mister, this is, I don't care what reason you have, I will ask and you will answer. Furthermore, there are a lot of people who are smarter than you here. Yihua said coldly. If not for Qinya being soft-hearted, she would have already poked his forehead. In any case, it wasn't me who did it, it doesn't count. Jian Yuan was sweating profusely. Why am I so unlucky these 2 days, Sailor Moon and Calabash Brother? I actually got bullied by a character from an anime, can I still have fun? Why is there such a strong person in this long and city? After I return this time, I definitely have to report to the sect. I will not stay in Long and City even if I am beaten to death. Mister, there is a dragon vein under the mountain that they bought. Dragon vein. Yihua went into a slight daze, and here I thought that it was something that made them fight over it. To make such a big fuss over a mere dragon vein. Under the dragon vein, there are a lot of treasures, pills, orbs, techniques, and so on. Jian Yuan had the heart to cry, and he took out everything. Yihua waved his hand, and Calabash Brother instantly dissipated. The purple sword also returned back to its original form and fell onto the ground. And those wealthy merchants' eyes were opened wide. There are orbs and techniques, no wonder our Yunfeng sect wants to butt in. Chapter 88. There was no longer any meaning in staying here any longer. Pulling Qinya, who was absent-minded, Yihua said, Xiao Jiu, call a car over. Lord Jiu immediately stood up. I'll make the arrangements now. Boss, please wait for a while. The driver will be here soon. Yihua nodded his head. This Wei Cheng and Lai Gu's temperament is very weird. As long as someone is disrespectful to me, I will kill them without saying a word. Leaving this Xiao Jiu with me can also be used to deal with some trivial matters. If Jiu Yi were to know of Yihua's thoughts, he would definitely be in a dilemma. On one hand, he wants to hug Yihua's thigh, and on the other hand, he also wants to hug Yihua's thigh to save face. Very quickly, Jiu Ye's Rolls-Royce Phantom arrived, and the driver respectfully opened the door of the car. Yihua pulled Qinya, who was absent-minded, and walked out of the side hall. The things that they are talking about are too childish. I am not interested in knowing about it, and I don't want to know about it either. Right now, I am only curious about the thoughts of Qinya, this fool. After knowing my strength, you are already stupefied. Let's see if you are still going to be naughty in the future. Qinya was indeed stupefied. Never in a million years would I have thought that the man that I randomly found would be a cultivator. I really don't know if this is good luck or bad luck. Could it be that all cultivators have such a bad temper? Asking his woman to peel crayfish and buy pancakes at every turn? On the way back, the two of them didn't converse with each other at all. Yihua was a little impatient. Could it be that this stupid woman was scared silly? Stop at the side. Yihua said coldly. The driver didn't dare to say anything else. He had to pull over even if he had to pay a fine. After pulling Qinya, who was still in a daze, Qinya walked to the riverside and gazed into the distance. There were quite a number of couples strolling along the riverside, and there were also many elderly people dancing in the square. The main reason was that the riverside was cool. From time to time, a cool breeze would blow, making one feel relaxed and happy. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then leaned against the guardrail. Meanwhile, Qinya was standing at the side, and the breeze was blowing her beautiful hair, not knowing what she was thinking about. After finishing smoking a cigarette, Yihua was a bit irritated. Could it be that I have really become stupid? Speak. Yihua said gravely. Qinya took a deep breath, then asked, Yihua, do you know grafting? What do you mean? Yihua slightly wrinkled his brows. If I learn it, I can absorb your inner force. Yihua, what's the point of learning that kind of inferior cultivation technique? Yihua said in disdain. This woman's hair is too long, but her experience is too short. Do you know 3 flower at one's prominence? Yihua's frown deepened. No, then do you know the 9 Yin Sutra? Yihua had the thought of smacking Qinya's butt. Ah, not yet. Where's the Dark North Divine Art? You can't even do that. Buddha's palm headquarters, right? Sigh, Yihua, could it be that you have cultivated the Sunflower Manual? Yihua couldn't bear it anymore and hugged Qinya into his embrace. Don't you know whether or not I have practiced the Sunflower Treasured Book? Qinya let out a breath. Just now, I just wanted to tease Yihua a bit, and upon discovering that he is still the same as before, I can finally be at ease. Just that, with the additional identity of a cultivator, I don't know if I will be able to gain face for myself if I were to tell others about it. For example, other people say, my husband is worth tens of billions. Where does your husband come from? Qinya placed her hands on her waist and shouted out proudly, your husband is nothing, my husband is someone from the cultivation world. If Yihua knew what Qinya was thinking right now, he would definitely give Qinya a lecture. To actually compare yourself with that kind of low-rank job. Are you really someone from the cultivation world? Qinya asked. Yihua didn't know how to reply. What the hell is the cultivation world? If I were to deny right now, would she go back on her words? After all, what I am betting on is whether I am a cultivator or not. However, admitting that I am a cultivator, I feel really low. However, for the sake of teaching Qinya a lesson, I might as well be a little low. Seems like for this woman, my bottom line is getting lower and lower. Yes. Yihua said indifferently. Then, are you very powerful, the kind that can blow up a car with a punch, and can even fly into the sky? Yes. Then, can I fly on a sword? Can I fly into space? But there is no oxygen, Yihua, do you not want to breathe anymore? A few black lines appeared on Yihua's forehead. No wonder you were like that night, so you are a cultivator, you must have taken your medicine. Yihua was really angered and said coldly, you can come and give it a try tonight. TSK, I won't fall for it. Don't think that just because you are a cultivator, I have to hug onto your thigh and listen to your words. Qinya pushed Yihua away, stood in front of Yihua, raised her chin and said confidently. Yihua said gravely, did you forget about your vow? What vow? I don't know what you are talking about. I knew that you would be like this. Yihua took out his phone and played Qinya's recording. If Yihua is really a cultivator, Qinya, promise that I will be obedient in the future, Yihua will be my sky, alright? After listening to her vow, Qinya immediately understood, I was tricked by Yihua again. I won't accept this, you lied to me. Qinya raised up her small fist again, but unfortunately, her wrist was grabbed onto by Yihua. Yihua knew that Qinya would go back on her words and said coldly, do you think that your small fist will be able to harm me? Qinya's expression immediately sunk as she said, I know that you are a cultivator now, and you are very powerful. I am just an ordinary woman, and I am completely not your opponent. If you want to hit me, then go ahead and hit me, in any case, there is no one in this world who would feel sorry for me. After hearing what Qinya said, Yihua went into a daze. Why do I feel that I am the one in the wrong? If I wanted to hit you, I would have long slapped you into the sky. Look, your expression is that of anger. Go ahead and hit me, in any case, I don't have the strength to fight back. Qinya said faintly. Her resentment soared to the sky, and the people who were passing by were able to sense that heavy resentment. Even if they were separated by a screen, they would still be able to smell it. Yihua resisted the urge to smack Qinya's butt. Do you really think that I don't dare to hit you? You are a cultivator, you are the biggest, whatever you say goes. Qinya spread out her hands helplessly. Don't compare me with cultivators. Yihua shouted out lightly. Cultivators are nothing, just a fart is enough to crush us to death. Sigh, my husband is using his identity to oppress me, Sigh, Yihua suddenly felt that if he were to tell her a little bit of things, she would be able to soar into the sky. If I had known that this would happen, I would have kept it a secret. To actually say that I am using my identity to oppress me, you are clearly the one who lost the bet. Seeing that Yihua was not speaking, Qinya rubbed her ankle and said lightly, I can't walk anymore. Take a taxi by yourself. Yihua said petulantly, then lit up another stick of cigarette. Qinya snorted coldly, then made a flower-pinching finger gesture. I don't know who was the one who said that as long as my ankle hurts, you will have to carry me on your back. And you are even a cultivator, your mouth sure is full of nonsense. Cough, cough, cough. This was the first time that Yihua choked on his own cigarette. Originally, I wanted to use the recording to educate Qinya, but in the end, I didn't expect that my identity would instead become a handle that Qinya could use against me. She is even a cultivator. If I were to tell her my real identity, things would get out of hand. Forget it, I will just slowly walk back. The identity of a cultivator is noble. How can I carry my wife on my back? If this matter were to be spread out, I would lose so much face. Qinya suddenly added a sentence. Chapter 89. Come up. After a while, Yihua suppressed the impulse in his heart and shouted out coldly. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Qinya's mouth, then she turned her head and said, Really? You won't throw me into the river, right? Come up. I don't want to say it a second time. Yihua really wanted to turn back time. This woman is truly much smarter than what I imagined her to be. Qinya immediately arrived behind Yihua and patted on Yihua's back, squat down a bit. As the almighty supreme overlord, Yihua felt tired and helpless as he slowly bowed his body. This is the first woman that dares to be so arrogant towards me. Qinya suddenly jumped up and wrapped her spotlessly white arms around Yihua's neck. Meanwhile, Yihua began to walk forward, and the scene was rather comical. Because Yihua didn't hold on to Qinya's legs, right now, it was as if Yihua was carrying a corpse. Qinya, who was on Yihua's back, immediately shouted out, Yihua, if you don't want to carry me, just say it. What are you trying to do this time? This cannot be blamed on Yihua. After all, he had never turned his back on anyone before. Don't you know how to hold my legs? Do you want to drag me home? Yihua took a deep breath. You are the first woman who dares to shout at me. What's wrong? Did I hurt the dignity of the cultivators? Don't mention cultivators to me. Right now, Yihua hated cultivators to the core, and he really wanted to get rid of all of the cultivators. It was precisely because of the cultivators that he was teased by this woman. Qinya pouted and did not provoke Yihua anymore, because she discovered that Yihua was currently walking towards the riverside. Unknowingly, Qinya walked to the street, and Qinya became the object of envy of all women. Look at the others. They all know how to carry their girlfriends. Why don't you carry me? Then why don't you look at other people's girlfriends' bodies? As long as I carry you, you have to give me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You're so annoying. You want to take advantage of me again. The skinny man was already in despair. Was I talking about taking advantage of her? I'm talking about how fat you are. Oh my God, this is so hopeless. Leaning on that broad and sturdy back, Qinya felt extremely safe. Towards the envious gazes that other people were casting at her, she also happily accepted them. If you guys have the ability, then go and find a cultivator husband to carry as well. Yehua. Qinya called out softly. Yihua lightly nodded. In actuality, he was silently praying in his heart that Lai Gu and Wei Cheng must not see this. Will you really hit me? Yihua stopped his footsteps and immediately slapped onto Qinya's perky butt. Do you think that I dare or not? Qinya was stupefied. This fellow actually dared to spank my butt in front of so many people. Shameless. Without waiting for Qinya to start scolding, Yihua took the initiative and said, I have a voice recording as evidence. You better be more obedient in the future. If not, I will spank your butt until it is swollen. Qinya pouted her small mouth. Humph, you are a cultivator, so of course you can only rely on your martial strength. Yihua remained silent. I swear. Tonight, I am going to properly teach Qinya a lesson and let her know the consequences of going back on her words. Not long after, Yihua arrived at Leisure Bar while carrying Qinya on his back. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Yihua walked upstairs. Wei Cheng swore that he would definitely tell this scene to Lai Gu. Bang! The bedroom door was heavily closed by Yihua. Qin Yutong naturally heard what happened and immediately ran over to the corner of the bedroom to eavesdrop. Brother-in-law and big sister sure are passionate every single day. Sure enough, in just a few seconds, big sister's panting sound could be heard from the bedroom. Qin Yutong's entire body was in a bad state. Brother-in-law is simply too ferocious, big sister's panting is not panting anymore, she is almost shouting for help. The two of them are simply too hardcore. So perverted. On the spacious bed, Yihua was currently teaching Qinya a lesson. Don't think too much, I am just placing Qinya on my thighs and spanking that sexy little butt of hers. The amount of force that I control is just right, just that, isn't Qinya's scream too exaggerated? Ah! Yihua, I have seen through you only know how to hit your wife. Ah! Let me tell you, Yihua, if I am stronger than you, I will use the same posture to spank you. Ah! You bastard, are you addicted to spank me? Ah! I am a pregnant woman. You can't spank me like this. Suddenly, Yihua recalled that Qinya was still pregnant with his blood, and immediately stopped. Come on. Why did you stop? Cultivator. Qinya shouted out coldly. Yihua let out a sigh, then helped Qinya up and said seriously, Qinya, can you not make me worry a bit less? Qinya looked at Yihua in disbelief, then directly pushed Yihua onto the bed and said, who are you saying is not making you worry? How am I not making you worry? You explain clearly to me. Yihua was a bit absent-minded as he stared at the face that was right in front of him and that charming red lips. Suddenly, he recalled that night, that soft feeling, and expressed that he still wanted to try. Sure enough, under Qinya's adorable expression, Yihua kissed onto Qinya's lips. Yihua thought to himself in his heart, it is still that kind of soft and a bit sweet. Bang! At this moment, the door was suddenly pushed open by Qin Yutong. Yihua and Qinya who were on the bed immediately looked at Qin Yutong who suddenly appeared with cold eyes. I heard that the two of you didn't make a sound, and I thought that the two of you had perished together. I will leave now, the two of you can continue, don't bother about me, bye-bye. Qin Yutong immediately left. The gaze of brother-in-law and big sister is so scary. Yihua pushed Qinya away and said calmly, I am going to take a bath. In actuality, his heart was not calm at all. Oh! Qinya who was angry just a moment ago also cowered and sat cross-legged on the bed in a daze. The atmosphere between the two of them immediately became awkward. Even after Yihua came out from the bath, Qinya did not say anything and just rushed into the bath. After that, the two of them just lay on the bed, one on the other side, and neither of them spoke first. Is your phone turned off? Yihua asked lightly, he was unable to hold it in anymore. Qinya's tone was also not that cold, it is turned off. Just that, the two of them spoke one after another, and the atmosphere instantly quietened down. Roughly half an hour later, Qinya finally could not hold it in anymore and asked lightly, are you asleep? If you want to come over, then come over. Yihua said faintly. This woman really wants to save face. Qinya snorted and lightly moved her body, then closed her eyes and hugged onto Yihua, as if by doing this, she would not find out. She was purely deceiving herself. Just that, Yihua's heartbeat is a bit fast today, why is my heartbeat also following the rhythm? This fellow is indeed messing around with the rhythm. Yihua, you are a cultivator, and I am just an ordinary person, will you? Before Qinya finished speaking, Yihua interrupted and said solemnly, I won't. This was the tacit understanding that a husband and wife should have. There were some words that the other party did not need to finish speaking, and the other party would know. Yihua was just like this. Qinya's character was more or less clear, to put it simply, she was a hedgehog that did not have any sense of security. Before tonight, Qinya felt that the gap between her and Yihua was not that big. In any case, Yihua was also the boss of a bar, and both of them were bosses. However, now, it had changed. Yihua was not only a boss, he was also a cultivator, and in the novels, he was able to ascend to immortality. The huge sense of loss made Qinya very melancholy, feeling that Yihua was suddenly very far away from her. Thus, she made Yihua look as angry as usual, and the facts proved that Yihua was still the same. However, she kept feeling that she would lose Yihua, perhaps on the day when the child was born. After all, the promise that she made on that day was still lingering in her mind. Chapter 90. Carrying along this uneasy feeling, Qinya gradually fell asleep. Hugging onto Yihua while sleeping is very comfortable. If I suddenly lose him one day, I will probably suffer from insomnia. Right now, Yihua was also thinking blindly, but he wasn't as emotional as Qinya. Instead, he was thinking about how to get back my face. Could it be that I have to show off my manliness in front of her? I wonder if killing millions of people would be enough. If that's the case, she would willingly submit to me. This doesn't seem right. Just what is wrong? This is so vexing. Just like that, the two gradually fell asleep with their own feelings, until the sound of knocking on the door rang out in the morning, waking Yihua and Qinya up. Brother-in-law big sister, Qin Yutong, stood outside the door and shouted. From her tone, one could tell that she was asking for someone. Yihua patted onto Qinya's shoulder. Go and open the door. Qinya grabbed onto her hair. What are you doing so early in the morning? What's the matter? Qinya opened the door and asked angrily. Qin Yutong could be seen to have already changed her clothes, wearing a big round hat and sunglasses. She should be considered to be fully armed. Big sister, didn't you tell me to go to Gaohai City today? It's so dangerous for me to go to the airport alone. Aren't you and brother-in-law going to send me off? Qin Yutong blinked her beautiful eyes, pulled onto Qinya's arm and said coquettishly. Qinya wrinkled her brows. You are already an adult. Do you still need to send me off? Can't you just drive directly to the airport? Big sister, you don't even care about your little sister. My heart hurts. Yihua was no longer sleepy. He got off the bed and said, let's just go and send her off, and eat breakfast on the way. The corner of Qin Yutong's mouth twitched. I feel like it's all thanks to breakfast. Since the man has already spoken, what else can Qinya say? She went to wash up. 15 minutes later, the two were ready. Qinya, on the other hand, was very happy right now, because there was no need for her to put on makeup. Her face was simply too stunning. Thinking back to the meat on that day, Qinya was very curious. Could it really be dragon meat? Yutong, drive. Qinya threw the car key to her little sister. Qin Yutong knew that it would be like this. The two of them were masters, especially brother-in-law. That expression of his was just like an emperor coming out of the palace. Sitting on the Audi A8, Qin Yutong successfully obtained the identity of the driver, while Qin Yutong and Qinya sat at the back. Qin Yutong, who was driving the car, silently thought to herself. Last night, they were clearly quarreling so much, and in the end, when I knocked open the door to take a look, I saw that they were actually lying on the bed and kissing. Yutong, for the next few days, properly cooperate with us, all right? Don't cause any trouble again. Qinya reminded. Qinya understood her younger sister's personality very well. Yutong was puzzled. Qin said, Yutong, I said. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 days. You have to get it done. All right, in any case, you all just want to chase me away. When is my little nephew coming out? By then, we would have already run away from home, Yutong. Qin, yeah, Qin. Qinya was filled with melancholy. It was as if she had already seen her child running away from home along with her younger sister. Yeah, said. I, Qin. I, by day, I. Quiet down, what's there to quarrel about? Yihua said gravely. Quarreling every day, this is giving me a headache. The two goddess-like women pouted and quietened down. Half an hour later, Qin Yutong finally arrived at the airport. aren't you two coming down to send me off? Yihua and Qinya directly ignored her, and Qinya even went up to the car and stepped on the accelerator, leaving behind Xin Yutong, who had an adorable look on her face. Ah, these two are simply angering me to death. They don't have a bit of sympathy. Let me tell you, I am going to run away from home for half a month. Seems to be a bit long, 1 week then. Let's see if you two are anxious or not. Xin Yutong, who was throwing a small tantrum, walked into the airport and immediately attracted attention. Although she was fully armed, her temperament could not be changed. Don't look at how Xin Yutong was carefree in front of Yihua and Qinya. When she met outsiders, she would change. After all, Yihua and Qinya were her relatives. In the car, Yihua said faintly, "Let's go out for a walk today." "Cultivator, do you want to go on a date with me?" Qinya teased, the corner of her mouth unconsciously raised up. "Can you remove the word cultivator from your mouth? Can't you speak properly?" Yihua felt that telling her that he was a mistake. If he were to directly tell her that he was a supreme overlord, things would get out of hand. Qinya laughed tenderly. All right, I will remove it from your mouth, all right?" After remaining silent for a while, Yihua asked, "What do you think of my personality?" Qinya was very puzzled. This fellow is not normal today. Do you still have a personality? Those who don't know would think that you are an emperor. Your face is cold every day, and you even have problems with the most basic communication. Yihua, are you sick? Autism, you are also a cultivator, you have to hide your identity. Qinya. Yihua shouted out gravely, this woman can't even leave the word cultivator out of her mouth right now. To even say that I am sick, her guts are really getting bigger and bigger. Look, after saying a few sentences of yours, you are jumping up again. As a human, you have to learn to be calm. Don't think that just because you are a cultivator that you are superior to others. You have to learn to integrate with others. Cultivator again. Cultivator again. Yihua really regretted admitting that he was a cultivator right now. After taking in a few deep breaths, Yihua calmly asked, "Is there any way to solve it?" "Do I really have to solve it?" Qinya found it hard to believe. Yihua couldn't be having a fever today, right? "I am thinking too much." Yihua just felt that learning human nature was not something that one could learn on the surface. One had to put it into practice. However, talking to these low-grade creatures, I feel very uncomfortable. I wonder how Wei Chang did it. Yihua lightly grunted, feeling that he had lost a lot of face. "I will bring you to a place. I guarantee that you will be able to get rid of those bad habits of yours." Qinya felt that today was really wonderful. Yihua is finally obedient. Bad habits. Yihua said gravely. This is the dignity of a supreme overlord, but when it comes to her mouth, it became a bad habit. Could it be that it is a good habit? Qinya snorted. Half an hour later, Qinya brought Yihua to a place that was overcrowded with people, the pedestrian street of Long and City. "Last time, I even came here to eat skewers. Why did you bring me here?" Yihua asked faintly. "Don't think too much, come with me." Qinya held onto Yihua's big hand and walked into Audie's specialty store. Inside the specialty store, there were almost all female salespeople, and when they saw such a handsome guy, they all rushed over. When they saw the woman beside Yihua, they immediately stopped their footsteps. The woman was so beautiful that it made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Qinya sized up the sportswear, then looked at the suit that Yihua was wearing. Don't dress so solemnly all day. When it is time to relax, relax. Yihua remained silent. What are you in a daze for? Go and buy it. Qinya pushed Yihua, letting Yihua take the initiative to ask. Chapter 91. Yihua's breathing became a bit hurried. Are these small fries even qualified to talk to me? However, I have to assimilate into the human race, assimilate. If I am unable to control my emotions later on, Qinya will have to take the blame. Come over. Yihua shouted out gravely. The big sister was given a fright as she walked towards Yihua while trembling with fear, and her face was a bit pale. Qinya held onto her forehead. Can you be a bit more gentle? What are you being so fierce for? Fight. Shut up. Yihua said petulantly. Qinya snorted coldly. then walked to the side and ignored Yihua. Yihua rubbed his temples. Sooner or later, I will explode from anger because of Qinya. Qinya, come over. Qinya, who was pretending to choose clothes, snorted, but she still walked over. I'm sorry, my husband is sick. He has a language barrier. Just a moment ago, you even roared at me, see if I don't teach you a lesson. Don't think that you can bully me just because you are a cultivator. Oh, so it's like that. The big sister was relieved. She was scared to death. Right now, Yihua's mood was just like Jian Yun's mood yesterday, constipated. Beauty, does this set of clothes come with a couple's outfit? Qinya asked curiously. The waiter smiled and said, Miss, of course. Qinya poked the angry Yihua. What are you doing? Bargaining. Qinya shook her head. This husband of mine is just like a child, he doesn't know anything. Yihua's brows wrinkled deeply. Have I ever seen a supreme overlord haggling over the price when buying something? This wasn't bargaining, this was lowering the price. If word of this got out, where would his face go? We need to interact more with each other. Qinya said in a low voice. Yihua took a deep breath, then asked, how much? The lady was still very shy. She looked at the price and said, 489 yuan. Hearing that humans like to bargain with the lowest price, Yihua had an answer in his heart and said gravely, too expensive, 1 RMB. The big sister was instantly stupefied, and even Qinya was stupefied. This fellow isn't messing with me, right? However, looking at that incomparably serious face of his, he doesn't seem to be joking with me. Sir, although you are handsome, you can't bargain like this. The young lady wanted to cry. Even a handsome guy couldn't bully people like this. Qinya was hating iron for not becoming steel, how can it be returned like this? Let me do it, you learn more from me. Qinya let out a sigh. To think that I, the madam, would still have to do it. Seems like Yihua has cultivated himself to the point that he became stupid. Qinya picked up her clothes and touched it, then frowned and said faintly, 489 is too expensive, how about this, 488? What an auspicious number. This time, it was Yihua's turn to be a little stupefied. This is called bargaining? It seemed that this woman was even more ignorant than he was. She was still pretending to know. Even the waiter was laughing. The young lady felt that they were very strange. One was silly while the other was cute. They were a perfect match. Of course. Qinya raised her chin proudly and said towards Yihua, did you see that? This is called bargaining. It is truly a miracle that your company didn't go bankrupt. Yihua shook his head helplessly. What do you know? You can't mix the two together, okay? Hurry up and bargain like me. I can't do it. As expected, Yihua refused. How can you be like this? Didn't you say you wanted to have a good conversation? Yihua said faintly, I have already had enough exchanges with you. Qinya went into a daze, then pulled onto Yihua's sleeves. Where did you learn those sweet words from? They are quite alluring. Yihua took a look, communicating with you is already troublesome enough, I don't want to add more troubles. Qinya knew that it would be like this fellow just doesn't know how to say some sweet words. Quickly go and change your clothes, it is so dark all day, can't you be a bit more sunny? Qinya shoved the clothes into Yihua's hands. If I didn't appear, you can just be a single dog for your entire life, who would be able to endure your temper? Yihua did not refuse and walked into the changing room with the clothes. Qinya also chose a set of clothes and walked into the changing room to change. When the two walked out of the changing room, no matter if it was the staff of the store or the people who came to buy clothes, all of them were shocked. Yihua, who had changed into the sportswear, indeed looked a lot more sunny, less calm and more gentleness. Qinya was the same too, it was as if she had become the big sister next door. Simply too childish. This was the portrayal of Yihua's inner heart. TSK, look how handsome he is. The only thing that Qinya felt fortunate about was that her husband was still pleasing to the eye, to the point that she wouldn't get tired of looking at him. It could be said to be a great fortune within misfortune. Yi Hua was very unnatural as he urged, "Quickly go. Go and pay the bill. I didn't bring any money with me." "Why didn't you even bring any money?" Yi Hua was speechless. She definitely did it on purpose. "You are my husband. When we are outside, I definitely need you to count the money. Of course, you are a cultivator, you can completely force me to do things." Yi Hua simply didn't have the slightest bit of temper. "The biggest mistake in this lifetime was yesterday night. I originally wanted to use my identity to shock Qinya, but in the end, it had the opposite effect." Seeing that Yi Hua obediently went to count the money, Qinya was still very happy. She went up and held onto the man who was throwing a small tantrum. Men, after all, have to be coaxed, if not why would they be obedient? Although I am an ordinary person, and my husband is a cultivator, but so what? Yi Hua is still obedient. "I will take care of you when we return home tonight," Yi Hua said gravely. "If I don't beat you up for a day, you will start to climb up the beam and tear down the tiles." Qinya could be seen touching her abdomen. "Baby, Daddy is going to hit Mommy. What do you think I should do?" My God, Yi Hua is not only regretting yesterday night, he is also regretting that night. This woman is simply like a curse to me. The two returned to the pedestrian street. Qinya looked at Yi Hua, who was sullen, and felt that it was very funny. She asked lightly, "Yi Hua, last night, you secretly kissed me. Here it comes again." "I already have 3 of my weaknesses in her hands. I simply want to die. If you are not happy, you can kiss me back," Yi Hua said gravely. "I, the Supreme Overlord, would also have such a day. I really didn't expect that." Qinya tiptoed and said sweetly, "As long as you admit that you are a swindler, I can let you do whatever you want," just like that night, immediately. The anger within Yi Hua's body rose rapidly, causing Yi Hua to turn pale with fright. "I am actually being controlled by this woman. How is this possible?" The words that I, Yi Hua, have said before are of enormous weight. "Alright, let's see how long you can keep your words to yourself for." Qinya's breath was like an orchid. She had Yi Hua firmly in her grasp. Seeing that Yi Hua was angered to the point that he was speechless again, Qinya said sweetly, "How about we go and take a risk?" "What do you mean?" "Let's just sit on a random car and go wherever we go, how about it?" In actuality, Qinya had a small wish, and that was to go on a trip without any purpose. Boring. Let's go, Qinya. When did you learn Yutong's moves?" Yi Hua wrinkled his brows. Qinya's expression immediately changed as she shouted out coldly, "Are you going or not? Actually, it is also good to learn from Yutong." Chapter 92. After getting on the bus, Qinya quickly fell asleep while leaning on Yi Hua's shoulder. It was only at this time that Yi Hua felt that Qinya was very obedient, and when she woke up, she became like a little demon. After half an hour of driving, the two got off the bus and changed into the minibus. "Who knows where this minibus is heading to, teacher? Stop for a moment." Looking at the scenery outside, Qinya couldn't help but shout out. After getting off the car, Qinya stretched her body and said comfortably, "The air here is fresh." Yi Hua lit up a cigarette, expressing that he was very bored. A truck carrying pigs passed by, and the truck carried a strange smell. Qinya's comfortable face immediately turned black, and even Yi Hua's face was the same. "This is the good place that you chose," Yi Hua said petulantly. Qinya was a little embarrassed. "How would I know? Can't you treat me a bit more gently? Hold my hand and close your eyes." "What? You want to steal a kiss from me again?" Qinya's heart was beating faster. "Who wants to kiss you? I am just changing places." Yi Hua let out a light sigh. "I really don't know what she is thinking about all day long. Tisk, let's see what kind of flower you can conjure up." Qinya snorted coldly and pulled onto Yi Hua's hand. 0.1 seconds later, Yi Hua said, "We're here." Qinya slightly opened her eyes. Just a moment ago, everything in front of her eyes had changed. What she could see was a green lake, and all around her were towering trees. This was the real utopia. "Yi Hua, have we transmigrated?" Yihua poked onto Qinya's forehead. Just what is going on in that little head of yours? Qinya stuck out her tongue, then ran to the lakeside and opened up her arms. Yihua followed behind her unhurriedly with a cigarette in his mouth. With a wave of his hand, 2 chairs and a small table immediately appeared. On the table was a dragon blood wine, as well as the meat of star-cleansing sparrow and golden delicate crane. Don't just stand there. Come and sit down. When Qinya turned her head around to take a look, she was first startled by the things that suddenly appeared, and soon after, she muttered, having a cultivator as a husband sure is good, he can even bring so many things with him. Another cultivator, Yihua really wants to throw Qinya into the lake to calm down. Lying on the chair, Qinya took a sip of the dragon blood wine and said, we will be able to save a lot of money on transportation fees in the future. Yihua didn't want to talk anymore. Yihua, are you able to transmigrate to another world? Qinya asked curiously. It's simple. Upon hearing that it was okay, Qinya became interested. When are you going to bring him over to play with me? Let's talk about it after you give birth. That's true. Speaking of children, Qinya rubbed onto her flat stomach and asked curiously, Yihua, will our children be like Superman when they are born? Qinya, don't compare children with those inferior races. Yihua said in displeasure. Qinya muttered, I'm just asking, why are you getting angry again? After eating a small mouthful of the star-cleansing sparrow's meat, Qinya seemed to have thought of something, and her mood instantly became gloomy. Yihua. How long can you two live? Qinya asked gravely. Yihua finally knew what Qinya was thinking about. This woman is actually worried about this. Thus, I decided to tease her a little. A very, very long time. Yihua said leisurely. Then when I get old, will you still be so young? Qinya's eyes turned red. When I think about how old I am, and how Yihua is still the same as before, I even have the heart to die. This silly woman, she is eating the star-cleansing sparrow's meat, and she is still worried about her appearance. Yihua said faintly, if nothing unexpected happens, it will be like this. This time, Qinya was really sad, and tears of helplessness fell out from her eyes. If only Yihua was an ordinary person. Yihua didn't expect that Qinya's reaction would be so big. He was startled for a moment, then said slowly, of course, I also have a way. Ah, what way? Teach me. Hearing that there was a way, Qinya was like a person who was drowning, tightly grabbing onto that life-saving straw. For people like us, every part of our body is where the essence lies, so, Qinya went into a daze for a moment, then immediately jumped onto Yihua's body and punched onto his chest. Yihua. I didn't expect you to be so shameless and perverted. Yihua lightly hooked onto Qinya's chin and said with a light smile, such a beautiful face, how can I bear to let you grow old? You are teasing me again, Yihua, I hate you, what a silly woman. Yihua laughed out loud, then hugged onto Qinya's soft and delicate body. Hugging onto my body feels very comfortable. Ripples appeared on the surface of the clear lake, and a light breeze blew onto Qinya's soft and beautiful hair. Yihua caressed onto Qinya's beautiful hair, if only you didn't talk back to me. Qinya closed her eyes and said, if only you didn't act cool all the time. Pa Yihua couldn't help but smack onto Qinya's butt, the one who acts cool all the time is you, right? Qinya opened her beautiful eyes and shouted out, you only know how to smack my butt. Your butt sure is bouncy, it feels good. Yihua. Right now, other than acting cool, you have also become a hooligan. Yihua hugged onto Qinya tightly, what's wrong with me acting like a hooligan towards my own wife? Qinya felt that this couldn't go on, so she said to Yihua, I want to learn martial arts. Oh. Why do you suddenly want to? Because I want to defeat you. And then bully you. Qinya turned around and rode onto Yihua's body, her posture was too explosive. Yihua laughed lightly, your way of thinking is perfect, but you won't be able to succeed. Chapter 93. Suddenly, a cry for help came from the forest. A man covered in blood rushed out. His panicked face made it seem as if there was a great flood or fierce beast behind him. Save me, save me, the man ran towards Qinya, who was in a daze. Unexpectedly, his legs became crooked and he tripped over himself. He slid for a full 3 meters before finally stopping in front of Qinya's feet. His chin was almost bruised. Yihua snorted coldly. How can my woman be touched by someone like you? Yihua, quickly come and save them. Qinya finally came back to her senses and shouted out loudly. Yihua walked over unhurriedly and sized up the man. He discovered that the man did indeed have injuries, but the injuries were not as serious as what he had shown. Furthermore, the fainting that the man was showing right now was just an act. Qin Yuan felt that he was really unlucky today. He heard that this mountain range was extraordinary, so he specially came over to check it out. In the end, he bumped into a disciple of the Cloud sect. Luckily, he escaped quickly, but he also discovered an unknown secret. If this news were to be leaked out, the entire cultivation world would be shaken. The Cloud sect actually secretly dug up a dragon vein. However, he was injured. If he continued like this, he would definitely be caught. Coincidentally, he saw a couple camping by the lake. After observing them for a while, he felt that they were both good people. After all, they were so in love with each other. The beautiful woman was running around like a child, shouting for him to come and catch her. She was really cute and kind. The man doted on the woman very much, so he was probably a kind-hearted person. When he saw someone like him in trouble, he would definitely help. Look at this beauty is anxiously shouting to save me. I am so happy, hurry up and drive me away. What happened? Yihua walked over and asked lightly. I don't know, he just ran out from the forest, quickly save him. Qinya pulled onto Yihua's hand and shouted out anxiously. Yihua appeared very serious and said, Qinya, don't worry, it's nothing big. Qin Yuan, who was lying on the ground, cursed under his breath. What kind of look was that? He was covered in blood, yet he said that he was fine. Only a fool would believe him. Then, I can rest assured. Qinya patted on her chest and let out a sigh of relief. Qin Yuan froze. How could you believe such words? Don't believe a man's mouth, believe your own eyes. Qinya naturally believed in Yihua. After all, Yihua was a cultivator. Then, why isn't he waking up? Qinya walked over to Qin Yuan's side and asked curiously. He might have fainted from the fall. Just get some water to wake him up. That's right, why didn't I think of that? Qinya slapped onto her forehead. I am truly becoming more and more stupid. Qin Yuan felt that he should wake up. There were wounds on his body, and he couldn't touch water. Just as Qin Yuan was thinking, a comfortable feeling spread across his face, and his body couldn't help but tremble. Yihua, it's moving. It moved. But why hasn't she woken up yet? Not enough water. Oh. Qin Yuan was shocked. He couldn't do this, he was about to wake up. Cough, cough, cough. Qin Yuan coughed violently. Perhaps he wanted to make it look more realistic, so he used a little more force. Who knew that he would cough out blood? He couldn't stop coughing. Qinya was frightened by the bloody scene in front of her. Yihua, is he going to die? He's fine. He's just coughing out blood. He'll be fine soon. Qin Yuan's heart crumbled. Who the **CK would cough up blood like this? How could these two people not know this common sense? 1 minute later. Yihua, why hasn't he stopped? Seems like he has a lot of blood. Qinya, lay him down. Yihua said faintly. Without waiting for Qinya to act, Qin Yuan had already laid down himself. Could it be that Yihua is going to give me artificial respiration? Such a beautiful woman, I'm so happy. What do we do next? Qinya asked curiously. Yihua pointed at Qin Yuan's chest. This person's blood is all accumulated in his chest. If we don't take care of it in time, he might suffocate to death. Ah, so serious. Chinya was shocked. Chinya, use your foot and step on his chest. Use a bit of strength, and he will be able to vomit out all of the extravasated blood. Yihua said very earnestly, and Chinya had never seen Yihua being so earnest before. Chinya wrinkled her brows. Will it really work? Chinya, look at how much pain he is in, hurry up. Qin Yuan couldn't care so much anymore. These two are simply inhumane. I am already coughing out blood, and they still want to step on my chest. Do they even have a bit of medical common sense? This beauty actually believed in my words. Cough. No. Cough, cough, cough. Qin Yuan wanted to leave. He didn't want to be stepped on by Chinya. Chinya took a deep breath. Mister, don't be anxious. My husband will cure you. Cure your sister. How is he going to cure me? He is going to take my life. You are going to be his accomplice. Bear with it a bit. Chinya closed her eyes and raised her foot. Cough, 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 cough. Qin Yuan went crazy. Even if you want to step on my chest, you should at least open your eyes. Who would step on my chest with their eyes closed? Sure enough, Chinya did as Yihua said and heavily stepped on Qin Yuan's chest. As expected, the coughing stopped, and Chinya let out a breath. Yihua's method is really useful. Yihua couldn't help but shiver. The place where Chinya's foot landed was too dangerous, not to mention coughing. Even if it was a heavy injury, one would still faint. Opening her beautiful eyes, Chinya looked at the place where her foot landed and took in a breath of cold air, then immediately looked towards Yihua. Yihua. I didn't do it on purpose. I just wanted to save him. Yihua shook his head. Quickly go and get some water to splash him to wake him up. Chinya, who was embarrassed, immediately took some water and splashed it on him again. When he wakes up, I will definitely apologize to him. I really didn't do it on purpose. Qin Yuan really fainted. Originally, I was still fine. I just wanted them to save me and drive away from here. In the end, I am really not far away from death. After Chinya's unremitting efforts, Qin Yuan suddenly woke up and took a deep breath. Coincidentally, Chinya splashed water on him. I'm finished, I choked. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Chinya was about to cry from anxiousness. Why did I vomit blood again? Qin Yuan opened his eyes, as if he was saying, don't torture me anymore, let me go, we can pretend that we never saw each other. Just that, in Chinya's eyes, this kind of expression completely became a signal for help. Don't worry, this time, I guarantee that I will step on the right place. Yihua slowly turned around. This is too cruel. Cough, 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 woo-woo. Qin Yuan was in despair. He wanted to struggle to get up and leave, but he was held down by Chinya. You can't leave now, you will die. F***K, if I don't leave now, I will die later on, you murderer. Chinya immediately raised her leg, and this time, she did not close her eyes. Aiming at the position, she kicked down. Pfft. A stream of blood sprayed out from Qin Yuan's mouth, and his entire body went limp, and his expression was no longer that painful. Chinya, you saved his life. Yihua said with his hands behind his back. Chinya let out a breath. What should we do next? Chapter 94. At this moment, two men in green robes ran out of the forest and saw Qin Yuan lying on the ground. Qin Yuan, on the other hand, seemed to have seen a life-saving straw, and with strength that came from who knows where, Qin Yuan crawled forward with all his might. Save me, quickly bring me away. The two disciples of the Cloud sect were dumbfounded. Just a moment ago, this fellow was running with his life on the line. How did he become so withered in just a few minutes? It was as if he had masturbated dozens of tubes. Chinya said apologetically, just now, I was saving him, and accidentally stepped on the wrong spot. This was the first time that Cloud Sect's disciples heard that one has to step on someone to save someone, and they were a bit stupefied. But no matter what, they had found them. One of the men cupped his hands and said, thank you both. Farewell. Qinya also cupped her hands. About that, take care. Qin Yuan shed tears of remorse. He no longer believed in TikTok. Who said that a good-looking person would have a beautiful heart? If God gave him another chance, he would definitely not ask them for help, even if he had to die. Yi Hua, I really didn't do it on purpose. Qinya apologized. Yi Hua took out a tissue and wiped off the sweat on Qinya's forehead. Alright, didn't you save her? But don't worry, this is a medical accident, it wasn't done on purpose. After hearing Yi Hua's explanation, Qinya felt relieved. That's right, this is only a medical accident. In actuality, this kind of treatment was indeed effective, and it wasn't because of Yi Hua's ill will. Yi Hua just wanted to punish this man. To actually dare to lie to me, it is already good enough that I didn't kill this man. Cloud's sect's disciples were currently carrying Qin Yuan back to the sect, and one of the disciples cried out in surprise, "Senior brother, he is bleeding. Isn't bleeding normal?" But the location of the bleeding is not normal. Qin Yuan no longer felt anything. When he lowered his head to take a look, he immediately fainted. That woman is so terrifying. At the lakeside, Qinya seemed to have walked out from the shadows and was eating the star-cleansing sparrow meat that other people yearned for even in their dreams. Yehua, is this really dragon meat? It will be fine if you just eat it, it is good for your skin. Yihua lit up a cigarette and looked at the sky, which was gradually becoming dark. Yihua, why do you treat me well sometimes? Qinya asked curiously. Yihua turned his head around and took a look at Qinya, as if he was saying, "You idiot, how did you even think of such a question? If I don't treat you well, who should I treat well? No matter what, I am still the child's mother." Suddenly, Qinya felt that other than being beautiful and rich, she didn't have anything else. Sigh, this is so depressing. A trace of hesitation appeared in Wei Chang's gaze, but very quickly, he changed his mind and knelt down on one knee. "Subordinate will solemnly obey your honor's command." Yihua waved his hand. "All right, don't make it so serious. Wei Chang, it is fine for you to get a girlfriend and experience human nature, but your real identity has to be hidden. If your little girlfriend finds out, you should know how to deal with it." Subordinate understands. Wei Chang lowered his head and replied. "Lai Gu, you are the same. Subordinate obeys your command." Yihua lit up another cigarette and asked, "Do you smoke?" Wei Chang said, "Subordinate doesn't smoke." Lai Gu, smoking is bad for the lungs. Wei Chang looked towards Lai Gu confusedly. "You still have lungs? Is there any news about the other 5 sins?" Yihua took a puff of the cigarette and exhaled out the smoke. Lai Gu changed his frivolous expression and said solemnly, "Not at the moment. Your Honor, it has already been 5 years. The other 5 sins have not been found yet. I am afraid that something unexpected has happened." Wei Chang's tone was filled with killing intent. Towards traitors, there was no need to give any face, even if the traitor was a former comrade. Yihua let out a breath. "Each of you 7 sins have your own unique points. If they were to join hands, the 2 of you would not be their match, but you are still able to fight them one-on-one." Wei Chang and Lai Gu remained silent. The other 5 sins were powerful. Not only were they powerful, their personalities were also twisted. How could Yihua and his 2 subordinates not have twisted personalities as well? It was just that after learning for 5 years, their personalities became slightly better. However, who knows what the other 5 sins are doing? Perhaps they are still maintaining their original character. Yihua extinguished the cigarette butt, and a trace of red light flashed past his pitch-black pupils. "My 7 subordinates are just like my 7 children. If the other 5 sins were to really betray me, should I kill them or not? Furthermore, the strength of the other 5 sins is not to be underestimated. Let's put this problem aside first, we will deal with it in the future. Let's deal with that Xiao family that owes money and doesn't return it first." Yihua sat on the boss's chair and said calmly. Chapter 95. Lai Gu let out a sigh of relief. This kind of small matter is what Wei Chang likes to do the most. It is still more comfortable for me to lie on the bed. Lai Gu, how do you think we should deal with this matter? Yihua asked. The latter paused and swallowed his saliva. His honor is here to test me again, I cannot be careless. Your honor, just a mere human dares to not pay back the money he owes, of course, he has to pay back the money with his life. Kill them all. Lai Gu was still the same as before, killing all the people he meets. Wei Chang, how do you think we should deal with this matter? Wei Chang pursed his dry lips. According to the usual routine, I will definitely kill all the people I meet. I can give up the money, but I cannot lose my face. However, his honor will definitely not follow the usual routine, just like that Long Outyin. Your honor, those who owe money and don't pay back are the most evil. I suggest that we kill the person closest to them. Yi Hua was somewhat attracted by Wei Chang's suggestion. This is a bit interesting, tell me about it. Subordinate thinks that what humans fear the most is losing their loved ones. In the past, when we were fighting all over the world, we also saw it, but we didn't understand it. However, after 5 years of understanding, other than money, what humans care about is their family. Lai Gu took a look at Wei Chang. Where did this gluttonous freak find this fallacious reasoning from? Lai Gu, look at Wei Chang. When can you be as sensible as Wei Chang? Yi Hua was gratified. I finally made Wei Chang's IQ online. Subordinate is incompetent. I will definitely properly learn about human nature in the future. Lai Gu thought in his heart, learning about human nature on the bed. Yi Hua continued to ask, Wei Chang, who do you think Xiao Yi cares about the most? Here comes another problem. Wei Chang thought to himself, if it's me, other than his honor, it would be Xiao Tang. That's right. It's a woman. Subordinate thinks that the person Xiao Yi cares about the most is definitely his woman. Yi Hua felt that what Wei Chang said was reasonable. Nothing in life is more important than losing one's true love. Yi Hua went into a daze. What am I thinking about? True love. Wei Chang, you handle this matter as you see fit. Take the money, kill the person too. I will obey your honor's command. Let's do it tomorrow night at 12 o'clock. If he returns the money, then forget it. Yi Hua added. Wei Chang and Lai Gu went into a daze, then knelt on the ground and shouted, Congratulations, Your Honor. What joy! These two fellows had learned the human's flattery skills the most. Lai Gu sighed with emotion. His honor is clearly able to use his martial power, yet, he just had to use his brain. As a subordinate, I am truly unable to catch up to him. What Lai Gu said is right. If it was in the past, his honor would have long since ordered us to kill him. But today, his honor actually said to spare his life. From this, it can be seen that his honor's control over human nature has already reached the pinnacle. Subordinate is blushing with shame. Wei Chang was so excited that he even sprayed out his saliva, and that expression on his face didn't seem to be bootlicking. Lai Gu, who was at the side, was stupefied. This gluttonous monster's performance is pretty good. You all. Yi Hua laughed helplessly. Compared to the past, the current atmosphere was much warmer. Dong dong dong, Yi Hua, are you inside? Qinya's voice rang out. You guys go ahead. Wei Chang and Lai Gu bowed and left, then disappeared from the office. Just at this moment, Qinya pushed open the door and walked in. When did we come back? Not too long ago. Yi Hua opened the window and let the smoke disperse a bit. Although it was just a small action, Qinya's heart still felt warm. Yi Hua, let's go out to eat, watch a movie, and take a walk. All right. Yi Hua let out a breath. The human emotions that Wei Chang spoke of, are they really that mysterious? Could it be that I, the Supreme Overlord, already care about this woman? This is truly inconceivable. Emotions are the most mysterious thing in the human mind. Even a strong person like Yi Hua is about to fall into such a state. It is truly not easy. However, this kind of emotion was still continuously warming up. This was something that the two people didn't expect. Yi Hua admired Qinya's courage to be angry and speak out, and Qinya liked Yi Hua's concern. Although Qinya has a bad temper sometimes, overall, Qinya is still considered to be good. The morning sunlight was always so gentle. Without his sister-in-law at home, there seemed to be a bit less joy, but at the same time, it was also a lot quieter. Wake up, Ing monster. Ing. To be honest, Yihua rather liked Qinya, who was acting coquettishly. Caressing onto Qinya's smooth long hair, Yihua thought to himself, these days are pretty good, it is a bit better than the lonely days I had in the past. Seeing that Qinya was lazing around on the bed and not getting up, Yihua could only take forceful measures and directly carried Qinya to the washroom. Qinya naturally didn't want to comply, and the sound of quarreling immediately rang out. Qinya, who lost the quarrel, pouted and went out to buy breakfast, while Yihua went to his sister-in-law's bedroom, turned on the computer, and prepared to play games. I still have to practice my skills, no matter what, I have to bring my wife and sister-in-law to eat chicken, and not listen to the two of them complain. And after Qinya came back, she saw that Yihua was secretly playing games, so of course, she had to join in. In the end, the two of them had to play as a pair, and both of their lunch and dinner were takeaway. Yihua had led my wife astray. Yihua, play one more round, I want to eat chicken. Qinya pulled onto Yihua's sleeve and begged pitifully. Yihua pointed towards the clock, look at what time it is already 11:30 a.m., don't you want to sleep anymore? Please, play one more round. You have been saying that you will play one more round since 10 a.m., you are already a person who is going to be a mother. Really, this is definitely the last round, after playing, let's go to sleep. Qinya opened her big watery eyes and even learned from her little sister to act cute, simply refreshing Yihua's understanding of her. This was also under the situation where Qin Yutong was not present. If she was present, Qinya would definitely have the appearance of a big sister. This way, she would appear to have a deterrent force, and in the end, Qinya was slowly accepting Yihua. Yihua let out a breath, one more round. Thank you hubby, moi. Kiss my face full of saliva. TSK, this beauty here kissed you and you still dislike it. You can play by yourself. Don't, hubby, I know my mistake, only a capable man can bring his wife to eat chicken, and Yihua actually forgot about the proper business. Luckily, Wei Cheng still remembered. Wei Cheng, who was currently on the first floor, looked at the clock. It is almost midnight, I still have to collect what I should collect. Walking to the toilet, he closed the door and called out, Death Mage. Within a villa in Longan City, Death Mage was currently drinking beer and watching the match between Germany and South Korea. Isn't it obvious that Germany is going to win? Death Mage decided to gamble one more time, betting on Germany to win. Just when the match had just started, he received a summon from his master. This was the hardest time to make a decision in one's life. Death Mage chose his master, but where did his scythe go? Finally, Death Mage found his scythe at a corner of the kitchen. Dust had already gathered on it, I have to wipe it, I can't let my master find out that I am slacking off. According to my master's orders, I am currently guarding that long outyin. Chapter 96. Master. Death Mage respectfully lied on the ground and shouted out, hoping that his master would quickly give the order, I still have to go back and watch the match. Wei Cheng wrinkled his brows, however, he did not ask too much about it. There is a Shao family in Zijin City, and the family head, Shao Yi, owes his honor 50 billion. Go and get the money back. Other than that, kill his most important woman. Do as you see fit. A mere trash dares to owe his honor money, and even caused master to be so vexed. How can killing a single person be enough to appease his honor's anger? I would like to be so bold as to request to kill his entire family. The corner of Wei Cheng's mouth twitched. Wasn't this line used by him in the past? It seemed like he really wasn't as bloody as he was in the past. How can you change his honor's orders as you wish? Wei Cheng shouted out lightly. What an unruly fellow. This subordinate deserves to die. As soon as it's midnight, you can make your move. Death Mage did not dare to ask too much about it. Why did they have to wait until midnight before taking action? This is truly strange. The opponent's strength is not bad. Wei Cheng warned before opening the door. Master, don't worry, subordinate will definitely get back his honors 50 billion and a life. Go. Yes. When Wei Chang walked out of the toilet, he just happened to see Tang Wei walking over. Uncle Wei, Tang Wei called out sweetly as a blush appeared on her cheeks. Xiao Tang, when we close the door, Uncle Wei will treat you to supper. Wei Chang said with a smile. Yi Hua thought that Wei Chang would personally take action, but who knew that Wei Chang had a date at night, and thus called his subordinate over. In actuality, his subordinate was still going to watch the football match at night. If it wasn't for Wei Chang saying that the opponent wasn't weak, Death Mage would definitely have sent his subordinate over. The Zijin City's Shao family was located in the northern suburbs. This was a manor that occupied an extremely large area. To be precise, it was not a manor, but a mansion. Just like the residence of the prince in the past, it was all Chinese-style buildings, with small bridges and flowing water. The environment was elegant, and it was the enjoyment of an emperor. In the east courtyard of the Shao family, Shao Yi was lying on a big bed with two beautiful wives beside him. One of them was Nangong Sini and the other was Yuqi. She was the most beautiful girl in the school, but she was taken away by Shao Yi. But that was 10 years ago. Although it had been 10 years, Shao Yi's wives were still the same as before, showing no signs of aging. This was all thanks to Shao Yi himself. Big brother Shao, you're finally willing to accompany me today. Yuqi stretched out her index finger and drew circles on Shao Yi's firm chest. Nangong Sini laughed softly. Brother Shao, little sister Yu is hungry and thirsty. You have to feed her until she's full tonight, Sister Sini. Why do you have to tease me every time? Nangong Sini lifted Yuqi's chin and said, because I like you. I hate you, Shao Yi chuckled. He was also watching the match, but his thoughts were restless. He felt that something big was going to happen tonight, and it had been a long time since he had such a feeling. Brother Shao, what's wrong? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Why don't I ask Sister Shu Nan to take a look at you? Shao Yi shook his head. There's no need. Besides, I was the one who taught Shu Nan his medical skills. I know my body well. Brother Shao, why don't you rest early? You still have to take Yun, to sign up for the children's soccer team tomorrow. The little guy is very excited today. Sister Sini coaxed him for a long time before he fell asleep, Yuqi said softly. She then rubbed her belly and smiled happily. Oh. Is Yun that excited? Shao Yi laughed. Although he had many wives, it was very difficult for them to get pregnant. Until now, he had only given birth to one son, Shao Yun. Of course, Yuqi was also pregnant. It was already 3 months, and it was a girl. She couldn't bear it for 3 months, and tonight, she had to do something. Nangong Sini said with a smile, isn't that so? Recently, the little guy has been saying that he wants to enter the national team and play in the World Cup to win glory for our country. Not bad. He already knows how to win glory at such a young age. Shao Yi was very happy and looked forward to the arrival of his daughter. After a pause, Shao Yi said, Sini, I will start my seclusion tomorrow. I have a feeling that something big is going to happen. Okay, don't worry and go into seclusion. I will look after the company, Nangong Sini said. Sister Sini, I also want to go to the company to help you, Yuqi said pitifully. You, just stay at home and wait for the delivery. Otherwise, someone will say that I mistreat the pregnant woman again. Nangong Sini poked her husband's arm. Hubby, let's go to sleep, it is already 11:50 p.m. Yuqi lightly bit onto her lips, expressing that she was feeling very uncomfortable. Shao Yi laughed, let's watch for another 10 minutes. If Germany doesn't score a goal, we will go to sleep and feed you properly. Annoying, Nangong Sini laughed helplessly. Today, you guys are the home team, I am here to cheer for you guys. Sini, don't even think about running away, give birth to another one for me. Shao Yi said straightforwardly. Don't, the other sisters are going to be jealous of me to death. Huh, Shao Yi's arrogant laughter immediately rang out in the room. This is the peak of life, hugging onto one's left and one's right, and it's still joyful and harmonious. TSK. At this moment, outside of Shao Residence's wall, Death Mage was leaning on the wall while hugging onto his sickle of death. His 5 hand bones were holding onto his phone, and the phone was still lying horizontally. The commentator's passionate voice was currently ringing out from the phone. 100 meters away from Death Mage, there were a few scouts that were holding onto night vision goggles and looking at the situation. Quickly look at the wall, there is an idiot. Quickly let me take a look, damn it. Seriously, not only did he not sleep in the middle of the night, he actually came to Shao residence to cosplay, and he even dressed up as a Grim Reaper, awesome. He seems to be watching the World Cup. Did you place a bet on the match between Germany and South Korea tonight? Of course, Germany is the defending champion. I even used the money that I used to buy a house to bet that Germany will win. Me too. If Germany wins, I will become a young model at the club. If Germany loses, I will become a slave. Huh, you know me best, my brother. However, we have already waited for a few days, and we still haven't seen a single ghost. That's right, there are only damned mosquitoes. Death Mage naturally knew that there were a few groups of humans in the surroundings, but he was not interested in caring about them. Right now, what he was concerned about was the match. Germany team, quickly score a goal. There are still 8 minutes before I have to start working. If I were to lose tonight, all of them will be castrated. Motherf asterisk Kerr, this family is truly tired of living, to actually dare to even owe his honor money, causing me to not be able to watch the match in the middle of the night. It is a pity that his honor asked me to only kill one person. What kind of great luck did they have? Looking at the time on the phone, Germany team still did not score a goal. Death Mage let out a breath of relief. After I teach them a lesson, I will cheat, I swear. Next time, I will definitely not cheat. After keeping away his phone, Death Mage raised up his scythe and walked towards the front door step by step. Going through the back door? That is impossible. It is impossible in this lifetime. Who is it? Of course, Shao family had their own security measures. When Shao family saw a person that was wearing a black robe and holding onto a scythe that was even taller than a person, and that scythe's blade was shining with a silver light under the moonlight, Shao family's appearance had already explained everything. Chapter 97. It was just that the Shao clan security did not expect that there would be someone who dared to come here alone. This aura was not bad, and they did not know where that prop came from. GGG. Death Mage naturally wouldn't be able to speak, and only Wei Chong was able to understand what Death Mage was saying. Imperial translation, they're here to collect their debt. Where did this lunatic come from? Get lost. Otherwise, we'll beat you up. One of the security guards took out an electric baton and poked it in his palm. GGG, Imperial translation, if it wasn't for his honor's request to only kill one person, the two of you would have long turned into dust on the ground. Yo, I'm giving you face but you don't want it. What the hell are you laughing at? See if I don't beat you to death. 2 rays of black light shot out from Death Mage's hand, and the security guards who were still acting arrogantly just a moment ago were instantly unable to move. They were unable to even shout out, and only their eyes were filled with shock and fear. The jaws of the spy squatting outside almost dropped to the ground. Damn it. They weren't here to be funny, they were here to cause trouble. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Quick, report the situation here. Very quickly, the situation at this side fell into the ears of the various big clans. The sky above Zijin City was suddenly covered by a layer of dark clouds, and it was filled with oppression. Death Mage walked past the two of them, and with a push of his arms, the front door of the Shao family was easily pushed open. When the security guards inside saw that the front door was pushed open by a stranger who was dressed like a Grim Reaper, without saying anything, they immediately took out their guns and opened fire. Bang, bang, bang. The gunshot was so ear-piercing in the quiet night. Shao Yi had just turned off the lights, and Yu Chi's underwear was already down to her knees. Suddenly, there was a gunshot. How many years has it been? When did so many gunshots come from the Shao family? The two wives were also shocked. Nangong Sini immediately turned on the lights. Brother Shao. Xiao Yi put on his pajamas and frowned. Don't come out, I'll go take a look. Be careful. The two girls warned. They were wondering who had come to the Xiao clan. How audacious of him. However, the gunshots outside became less and less. Soon, it became quiet. The two women looked at each other and relaxed. It seemed that Xiao Yi had been taken care of. Let's go out and take a look. Nangong Sini said. Yes. Yu Qi put on her pajamas and followed beside Nangong Sini. When she went out, she saw 4 beautiful women walking over. It seems like they are all Xiao Yi's wives. His luck with women is really not shallow. The 6 wives slowly came to the front yard, and the strange scene made them suck in a breath of cold air. All the security guards seemed to be frozen, motionless, and their eyeballs could move, but all of them revealed a look of fear. In the middle stood a man in a black robe, holding an enormous scythe. Because he was covered by the black robe, his face could not be seen clearly. His husband was standing 10 meters away from him. There was a stone bridge between them, and the sound of flowing water was particularly dull. Xiao Yi's expression was heavy. This person's ability was probably on par with his. Where did such a person come from? Why didn't he know anything about it? Moreover, what was he doing here? What enmity did he have with him? May I ask why you have come to visit so late at night? Xiao Yi shouted in a deep voice. His aura continued to rise. Even if he lost, he didn't want to lose. He, Death Mage let out a strange sound again, and the 6 beauties couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. I'm afraid it isn't appropriate for you to tease me like this. Xiao Yi was a man with a temper. Furthermore, he was an immortal emperor in his previous life, and he was revered by thousands of people. Although he hadn't fully recovered his cultivation, he still had his dignity. Death Mage suddenly waved the scythe in his hand. Xiao Yi thought that Death Mage was going to attack him, and a green long sword condensed in his hand. This sword was called the Broken Emperor Sword, and it was personally forged by Xiao Yi. The body of the sword was green, and there were all kinds of runes on it. When activated by his cultivation, it would emit a dazzling light, and it was the act-tough King Xiao Yi's most proficient weapon. However, when he saw that Death Mage wasn't going to attack him, but was instead taking out his phone, his expression became even uglier, especially when he was so scared that he took out his weapon. Suddenly, the voice of the commentator of the World Cup rang out from Death Mage's phone. I was watching it too. Could it be that he was watching the match between Germany and South Korea? Why would such a strong person do such a weird thing? That's right, Death Mage was squatting in a corner watching the World Cup, and the face scan unlock was still on that screen. Death Mage took a glance at the screen. Damn it, it's still 0-0. I better get down to business first. Stretching out the hand bone, Death Mage was drawing on the phone's screen, not knowing what he was doing. Meanwhile, Xiao Yi was able to see that hand bone. This isn't a human. However, the 6 wives who were far away were not able to see anything clearly. When Death Mage took out the phone screen, the words on the screen were very big, and they were even scrolling across the screen. There weren't many words, but it caused Xiao Yi to be incomparably shocked, and even the 6 wives were dumbfounded. 2 words could be seen scrolling across the phone screen. Return the money. There were even 3 exclamation marks, indicating that Death Mage was very angry. Xiao Yi tightly held onto the Broken Emperor sword in his hand. I am here to trample on the debt. When have I ever owed someone money? What a joke. Not right. That night 3 days ago, that man. Could it be that that man told me to come here to trample on the debt? Calculating the time that Qin Yutong called me, today just happens to be the 3rd day. Just like that, it's already a match. 50 billion. What that prodigal earned was all cash, and where would I find 50 billion in cash? It is possible to gather the money, but if the capital chain is broken, the company will definitely be suppressed by others. This was also why I wanted to deny the 50 billion. If it was 5 billion, it would still be fine. Nangong Sini also thought so, but she didn't expect that the person who denied the money would come to trample on the debt, and this person even made her husband vigilant. "Sisters, let's go in, don't disturb Brother Xiao," Nangong Sini said tenderly. Towards her husband, she trusted him a lot. It could be said that her husband had never been defeated before. The women had also seen such a scene before. Although they were worried, they didn't want to distract their husband. All of them returned to the backyard and waited for their husband's triumphant return. Xiao Yi's gaze was deep, and at the same time, the desire that he had been immersed in for a long time was ignited. Being unrivaled is lonely. It has been a long time since I was this excited. Right now, it is hard to find an opponent. It is either that the opponent has some misgivings, or the opponent doesn't dare to. In any case, there are all sorts of reasons. And this person in front of me, wrong. He is not a human. No matter what he came here for today. This battle must definitely be fought, and it must be won. If not, Xiao family will become a laughing stock in the entire north. This is something that is absolutely not allowed to happen. I reckon that right now, there are already a lot of eyes staring at us. Xiao Yi took a deep breath. Let's fight at another place. Death Mage waved his left hand, indicating that he didn't mind. Such a disdainful action caused Xiao Yi to sneer. You don't even know who is standing in front of you. Do you think that I, the Emperor, will be afraid of you? Chapter 98. The two of them instantly disappeared from the Xiao mansion. When they appeared again, they were already in the mountains several kilometers away. This place was desolate and uninhabited, and it was extremely suitable for a fierce battle. Just like what Xiao Yi had expected, all of the leaders of the powerful families in Zijin City knew about what had happened to the Xiao family. At first, he thought that it was just a joke, but he didn't expect that the other party was actually serious. At the other side of the northern suburb of Zijin City, there was a manor that was very modernized. And under the surface of this modernized manor, various kinds of mechanisms were concealed, and all of them were personally designed by Tang Wushuang. That's right. This was Tang Wushuang's home. At this moment, Tang Wushuang had also received the news from his subordinate, and he seemed to be very surprised. There is really someone who dares to provoke Xiao clan. Was that man inflated? Or ignorance? Bam! Bang! I won. Tang Wushuang let out a heavy sigh. He had married over 10 wives, and only after he married them did he realize that all of them were gambling experts. Even his gold desert eagle was used as a gambling cushion. Standing up, Tang Wushuang placed his hands behind his back and let out a long sigh. Why are all the people with the surname Tang so miserable? Could it be that I am the reincarnation of Tang Bohu? Wushuang? Quan Anrong walked over with a smile. Tang Wushuang was gratified. Finally, there was someone who was obedient. Enrong, you, Wushuang, I'm out of money. Give me a few million first. Tang Wushuang's entire body froze. Wushuang, I'm just joking. Tang Wushuang couldn't help but rub his wife's nose. Little mischievous, I'm afraid a few million is not enough. How about 10 million? Tang Wushuang requested for a close-up shot of the scene where Tang Wushuang spurted out blood. Alright, I won't joke around anymore. Did something happen on Brother Zhao's side? Quan Anrong pinched her husband's face and smiled. What a fool. Tang Wushuang smiled helplessly. There's news. If I didn't guess wrongly, they should be here to collect the debt. Wushuang, Brother Xiao is so powerful. He should be able to settle this easily. Enrong, do you mean that you don't want me to get involved in this matter? Tang Wushuang wrinkled his brows. He didn't understand the profound meaning behind Enrong's words. Quan Anrong held on to Tang Wushuang's arm and walked out of the chess room. Then they arrived at the garden outside. Firstly, Brother Zhao's strength is very powerful, and even if you were to go, you wouldn't be able to do anything. We won't do something like adding flowers to brocade, and if we are going to do something, we will have to do something like sending charcoal in snowy weather. Timely help? Tang Wushuang's brows became very deep. Brother Zhao's reputation in the circle is very big, even surpassing yours. Wushuang, although you don't say it, I can see that you still care about it. Quan Anrong looked at her husband's expression and continued, tonight, if Brother Xiao is safe and sound, we will pretend that we didn't say anything. If anything happens to Brother Xiao, Wushuang, this is your chance. But Tang Wushuang fell into a multiple-choice question, and it was very hard for him to make a decision. Wushuang, if Brother Xiao really falls tonight, you really have to prepare for a rainy day. Zijin City will undergo another big reshuffle. All the big families, hidden families, sects, the world of cultivators, the world of special abilities, and those who live under the wings of the Xiao family will have to make new choices. But I don't want to betray Brother Xiao. After all, he saved my life. Quan Anrong sighed. How could she not know? But to help her man reach the top, she would have to sacrifice a lot. Wushuang, I'm not asking you to betray Brother Xiao. You just need to be a good person. In an instant, Tang Wushuang understood what his wife meant. If Brother Xiao were to be defeated tonight, then the entire Xiao family would be without a leader, and with the identity of Xiao Yi's brother, he would be able to support the Xiao family once again. Not only that, he would be able to obtain benefits from this, and furthermore, he wouldn't lose his reputation, and other people would even praise him for being loyal. Wushuang, don't think too much. Brother Xiao is very powerful. There are countless people who want to take him down, but none of them succeeded. It's very difficult for the thing we're talking about to happen. If it happens, it'll be your chance. Of course, you don't have to choose this path. After all, it's just a suggestion. Quan Anrong kissed her husband's cheek and walked into the house, but suddenly stopped, as if she had thought of something. Wushuang, you still have a master. Xiao Yi doesn't have this. Tang Wushuang's body trembled. Master. How could he not know that this was a rare opportunity to swallow up the Xiao family? Then, the whole Tang family would be flipped upside down. At that time, the Bai family would be nothing, and there would still be those aristocratic families eyeing them covetously. But the prerequisite was that Xiao Yi had to die. The probability of that was even lower than winning the lottery. And in the western suburb of Zijin City, there was a castle. Looking at it from afar, it looked very much like the vampire castle that was shown in the movies. Furthermore, if one wanted to enter the castle, one had to pass through a drawbridge. This was the place where the Bai family lived, and the woman who lived here was Bai Cixin, who was known as the Beauty of the North. In the living room of the castle, 2 men and a woman were sitting on a sofa that was as red as blood. The woman was Bai Cixin. Just like her name, her skin was extremely white, and even the clothes she was wearing were white as well. On her head, there was a white scarf, which added a sense of mystery to her. On her delicate hands, she was wearing a pair of white gloves. And she was sitting on the main sofa, and the 2 men were sitting on both sides of her. There was no need to talk about the status of the family. Right now, she was holding onto a teacup, and with her bright red lips, she was tasting the newly grown Maojian tea. Debeo, don't buy this kind of tea anymore in the future. You know that I'm used to Dahongpo tea. Bai Cixin lightly placed down the teacup. She didn't care about how much this tea was worth at all. In Bai Cixin's heart, there was only good and bad tea. Wang Debeo laughed embarrassedly. Wife, recently, Dahongpo tea is in short supply. If you want to drink it, you will have to wait for a while. Look for the person who is hoarding the goods. Bai Cixin said faintly, killing intent surfaced in her tone. Wang Debeo liked his wife's aloof look, because at night, he would be aloof. Wife, you have the final say. Bai Qi, who was sitting at the side, was very melancholic. He didn't care whether it was Maojian tea or Dahongpo tea, in any case, it was bitter. Big sister, how are we going to deal with Long and City? Bai Cixin said lightly, they are just some insignificant small figures. During this period of time, don't go to the south. Understood, big sister. Bai Qi paused for a moment, then asked curiously, big sister, we just gave away that 50 billion? Is that true? Bai Qi still didn't understand his own big sister. On the surface, his big sister looked gentle and pleasant, but in the dark, she was actually a female devil. This time, brother-in-law lost 50 billion, and when it was time for him to return the money, he would definitely ask big sister, and big sister actually agreed to it. In actuality, Wang Debao was also curious. He felt that his wife's intention was rather deep, but he didn't dare to ask about it. If he were to ask about it, it would make him seem like an idiot, as if he didn't even understand what was going on. It just so happened that his brother-in-law asked about it, and everything went so smoothly. Debao, what do you think? Bai Cixin suddenly asked her husband. Chapter 99. Wang Debao's fingers subconsciously started trembling, and both of his legs were trembling. Why did she suddenly ask me this question? She's not playing by the rules. How can us men understand the wife's farsightedness? The wife's thoughts are as fine as a needle and meticulous. How can a husband dare to guess the wife's intentions blindly? In any case, everything that the wife says is right. Even if she is wrong, she is still right. Wang Debao felt that he had never felt so refreshed before. His bootlicking was done in one go, and there was no pause in the middle. Bai Qi couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Brother-in-law's desire to live actually made his choice of words a lot sharper. Awesome. Bai Cixin lightly tapped onto her husband's forehead and said indifferently, when did I say that I will really give them the 50 billion? The use of the 50 billion will be tonight. Whether it is worth it or not will also be decided tonight. If it is not worth it, then we will take it back. Zijin City will not have a Qing family anymore. If it is worth it, then it couldn't be any better. The two men were stupefied. My dear wife is wise. Big sister is formidable. The two bootlickers. Perhaps, the world might change tomorrow. Shao family and Tang family seem to be in an alliance, but who would be willing to lower their head to the other? This is truly becoming more and more interesting. Bai Cixin shook her head, then rubbed her thumb and index finger together. Let's wait for the result tomorrow morning. Bai Qi, you should sleep early. Hubby, let's go back to our room. Okay, Wang Debao said happily. There is nothing more pleasurable than being able to press down on my wife. Looking at big sister and brother-in-law leaving, Bai Qi couldn't understand. Why does big sister like Wang Debao? This is truly depressing. However, not only Tang family and Bai family were discussing. Right now, many big figures had woken up from their dreams and were waiting for the result so that they could prepare for their next move. The debt collection this time around was not only a matter of money, it was also related to the interests of a lot of people. Among them, there was more than 50 billion, and Yihua's carelessness caused ripples to appear on the surface of the calm lake. The ripples were gradually forming into ocean waves. The temperature in the mountains was a bit low, but the killing intent that was being emitted out from Xiaoyi's body caused the temperature to drop once again. The tense atmosphere continued to condense, and a wave of killing intent spread out in all directions. Although the broken emperor sword in Xiaoyi's hand was not unsheathed, there was a sharp and fierce sword chi that was pressing towards Death Mage. Although Xiao Yi was only wearing a nightgown, Xiao Yi was like a king. As long as he waved the broken emperor sword in his hand, heads would roll and blood would float around. However, this kind of aura was completely useless against Death Mage. However, Death Mage was a ranged fighter, while Xiao Yi was a melee fighter. It was clear that Death Mage was at a disadvantage. Adding on the fact that Xiao Yi was not an ordinary person, he had a lot of battle experience. It was very easy for him to find the opponent's weak point and deal a fatal blow. However, the Death Mage was not just for show. Although the Death Mage had developed a bad habit of betting on football matches, its battle prowess was not to be underestimated. Wei Chang had even said before that the number of experts that had died in the hands of the Death Mage were innumerable, because they had all committed the same mistake, and that was underestimating their enemies. But this time, Death Mage's opponent was an immortal emperor. Although he hadn't reached the peak, it was enough to make him suffer. Furthermore, this time, it wasn't that others were underestimating their enemy, it was Death Mage who had started to underestimate his enemy. Because, Death Mage felt that there was no one powerful enough on this planet, even if it was the person in front of him. I don't care if you're here for your debt or your life. Today, you will become a dead soul under my sword. Xiao Yi was not an ordinary person, and he wouldn't wait for his opponent to make the first move. A bright light burst out from Xiao Yi's eyes, and in the blink of an eye, a sword light flew towards Death Mage. Like a ghost, the sword light flew straight towards Death Mage's forehead. When experts were fighting, they definitely wouldn't use their strength at the start. Instead, they would use probing attacks, just like what Xiao Yi was doing. Don't look down on Xiao Yi. If it was Tang Wushuang, he would have to deal with Xiao Yi properly. Although Death Mage looked down on Xiao Yi, he didn't dare to easily receive Xiao Yi's sword attack. What Master said is indeed correct, this man's strength is indeed formidable. No matter if it is his strength or his speed, this man has already seen through the next sword attack. Xiao Yi's gaze became serious. As expected, this man is an expert. Xiao Yi gave up on stabbing towards Death Mage in front of him, and instead, turned around and slashed towards Death Mage. Emperor Broken Sword immediately blossomed with a dazzling light, forming a sword chi that slashed towards the air. The air in front of Xiao Yi immediately flared up, and the trees in front of Xiao Yi were all sliced into two. Death Mage, who was behind Xiao Yi, gradually disappeared and reappeared not far away from Xiao Yi. His body had already been sliced into two by the sword chi. Actually, in that instant, Xiao Yi felt that there was something wrong with the Death Mage in front of him, so he decisively swung his sword at Death Mage. Looking at the Death Mage who was sliced into two, Xiao Yi once again felt the loneliness of being invincible. This Death Mage is already the most formidable opponent that I have met in these few years, and he actually almost tricked me. Luckily, I reacted fast enough, otherwise, would have made a fool out of myself. This person is not that great, but tomorrow, it should be my turn to go and trample on the debt. This debt is much bigger than 50 billion. Qing family. You guys better prepare to receive my, Xiao Yi's, fury. Beep. Just when Xiao Yi started fantasizing about himself torturing the Qing family, a black lightning struck towards Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi didn't have enough time to dodge, so he used his sword to block the attack, and the runes on the hilt of the sword released a light shield. The black lightning instantly collided with the light shield. There was no bright light, the two of them disappeared at the same time, and it seemed like the light shield was cancelled out. Xiao Yi's expression was gloomy, and looking at the black figure who was not far away from him, he raised his arm and pointed his index finger at Xiao Yi. That disgusting sound came out from his mouth, as if he was laughing at Xiao Yi. However, Xiao Yi was indeed fooled. The one that Xiao Yi killed just now was only an illusion, and Xiao Yi's real body was nowhere to be found. Furthermore, a layer of the runes on the broken Emperor sword had also been used up. Immediately, Xiao Yi's nightgown fluttered even though there was no wind, and the aura that Xiao Yi was emitting was still continuously rising. Even the leaves on the ground were starting to float into the air. When Death Mage saw Xiao Yi who was in front of him, he became interested. Xiao Yi is the strongest human that I have seen in the past 5 years, just that, the smell that Xiao Yi is emitting is very nauseating. Heaven punishment sword art, Brahma heaven's will. When had Xiao Yi ever been deceived like this before, Xiao Yi decided to take out his trump card and end the battle quickly. The broken Emperor sword seemed to have sensed its master's fury and soared into the sky. In this pitch-black night, the broken Emperor sword shone like a star. A terrifying power quickly gathered at the tip of the broken Emperor sword, and the sky immediately changed color, and a rumbling sound suddenly rang out, piercing through the entire world. Death Mage raised his head and looked at the sky, then fiercely stabbed the death scythe into the ground with his right hand. Boom! The rumbling sound caused Xiao Yi's expression to sink even further. My opponent's strength is actually this strong as well. That stab from the scythe just now caused the entire ground to shake. Death Mage stretched out 5 of his fingers, and black threads were coming out from all 5 of his fingers. GGG, Royal Translation, Cave of Darkness. Chapter 100. However, no matter what technique you use, no matter if you are a human or a ghost, you will still have to die under my sword. Xiao Yi shouted out lightly as his fingers quickly formed seals. Broken Emperor sword that was in the sky shot out a dazzling light, and that dazzling light brought along a terrifying power as it struck towards Death Mage who was on the ground. Before the dazzling light even touched the ground, the powerful airwave that was emitted from the dazzling light already caused all of the trees to collapse, instantly razing the ground to the ground. From this, it could be seen just how powerful this move was. And under this terrifying power, there was also a huge sound wave attack. However, Death Mage seems to have no eardrums. Go and die, trash, no matter who it is, don't even think about acting cool in front of me, Xiao Yi. The people who acted cool in front of me have all been sent to hell, and you are no exception. Death Mage really didn't know how to speak. If it was possible, I would definitely have a verbal battle with Xiao Yi. You are still acting cool like this, I will beat you up. Looking at the terrifying dazzling light that was coming towards him, Death Mage controlled the cave of darkness and used it to block in front of him. Then, he secretly took out his phone and looked at the result of the match. The first half has ended, Germany and South Korea have yet to score a goal. I wonder who will score a goal first in the second half. I am truly looking forward to it. The sound that came out from the phone wasn't loud, but Xiao Yi heard it. Him. He still has the mood to watch the World Cup. He is ignoring me, ignoring my aura, ignoring my technique, and even more so, ignoring my ability to act cool. If that's the case, there are only two results today, either you die, or I die. Death Mage quickly kept his phone, then faced Xiao Yi's big move with a serious expression. After all, I have to respect others, I can't trample on others' dignity, and I can't sneakily watch the World Cup while others are using big moves. Go and die. Xiao Yi shouted out, seems like he was really angered by Death Mage's actions. However, the dazzling light shot into the cave, and then, everything returned to normal. A cold wind blew onto Xiao Yi's nightgown, and also blew onto Death Mage's black robe. Right now, Xiao Yi's stupefaction should be accompanied by a sad arrow, only then would it be able to bring out the stupefaction in Xiao Yi's heart. This is impossible. Just who are you? Xiao Yi shouted out gravely. GGG, Imperial Translation, your dad. After Xiao Yi heard this, his face alternated between white and red. He was still teasing him. His eyes narrowed and his hands quickly formed seals. Congratulations, you've successfully angered this emperor. Heaven Punishment Sword Technique, Buddha's Fury 9 Lotus. The broken emperor sword, which was floating in the air, shone brightly, and the body of the sword trembled violently. Bang! One divided into two, and then more and more. In a split second, the 9 broken emperor swords floated above the Death Mage, locking onto the Death Mage from all directions. Furthermore, the 9 broken emperor swords were condensing a power that was even more frightening than before. When this power was formed, the entire space around the Death Mage was violently distorted. Just like Xiao Yi's handsome face, it was incomparably malevolent. Xiao Yi hadn't used this move in a long time. He felt that no one in this world could block it. When he was an immortal emperor, he used it and the opponent disappeared without a trace. One could see how powerful this move was. However, his opponent this time was Death Mage. Wei Chang's valiant general. It stretched out its 10 bony fingers, and black fog appeared on its fingertips, just like before. Imperial Translation, 9 dark acupoints. 9 mirror-like bottomless abysses appeared around Death Mage. Xiao Yi, who was not far away from Death Mage, was stupefied. Just a moment ago, the mirror that Death Mage summoned out swallowed my attack, and this time, I have to continuously shoot out 9 times. And to think that Death Mage summoned out 9 mirror-like things as well. Just what the hell is this? Why are they able to swallow my attack? However, this time, it is different. The might of every single one of the mirror-like things is much stronger than before. No matter how deep your black hole is, I have to pierce through it. As expected. 9 mirror-like light beams shot down from the sky, and the entire sky became as bright as day. The scene was rather spectacular. Even the few people who were floating in the sky a few miles away from Death Mage sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw this scene. as expected of the Shao family's family master. But, after the 9 mirror-like light beams shot down, the night was still night, the crickets were still chirping, and the people who were stupefied were still stupefied. Shao Yi rubbed his eyes. After the 9 mirror-like light beams shot down from the sky, not even a fart was let out. How is this possible? Even the weakened version of Buddha's Fury 9 Lotus wouldn't have such an effect. Death Mage let out a strange laughter once again. Don't misunderstand, this is not a mockery. Well, that was a mockery. Death Mage suddenly opened up both of his arms, and a strange black mist suddenly blossomed out from his body. The black mist corroded the ground like a virus, causing Shao Yi's face to turn pale with fright. The black mist was like a tentacle that was trying to attack him. Shao Yi did not have the time to think and immediately dodged. Tentacles of Darkness. This was one of the Death Mage's ultimate spells. It had a very strong corrosive power and penetrative power. As long as one was entangled by it, they would suffer a fate worse than death. Moreover, this was a tentacle, and it was big, thick and round. Shao Yi had never seen such a technique before. He had clearly cut it off, but the tentacles immediately grew back. No matter how he dodged, there were always many tentacles blocking his way. As an immortal emperor, Shao Yi was like a monkey running around. His sweat quickly soaked his robe. In a split second, Death Mage grabbed hold of Shao Yi's weak point and controlled his tentacles to form a big fist and punched towards Shao Yi. Bang! Shao Yi's body flew out like a cannonball, breaking all the trees along the way. Boom! Shao Yi fiercely crashed onto the side of a mountain, causing the entire mountain to sway, and all the birds and beasts on the ground to jump in fright. Death Mage picked up the scythe of death that was stabbed into the ground and slowly walked towards the place where Shao Yi had fallen. Today's mission was not to kill him, but to kill his woman in front of him. I reckon that this kind of feeling will definitely be extremely pleasurable. How did Master think of such a move? More and more people gathered over. They did not enter the battlefield and chose to watch from a few miles away. Some of them were enemies, but for this kind of incomparable battle, they temporarily put aside their grudges. However, from the looks of it, Shao Yi's opponents were not weak at all. Among these people, there was a man and a woman who were wearing light muslin, and with just a look, one could tell that they were cultivators. Senior Marshal Brother, Shao family might be in trouble, we should go back and report this to the sect head. Junior Marshal Sister, the sect head had already come to an agreement with Bai family, there is no need to worry. Bai family. Senior Marshal Brother, Bai Cixin is not a good person, cooperating with them, we. Junior Marshal Sister, although Bai Cixin is vicious, we still need Bai family's resources. After this battle, we still have to make a trip to the south. South? Why are we going there? Of course, it is to bring treasures. Curiosity appeared in the Junior Marshal Sister's eyes. What kind of treasures would require them to take the risk to sneak into the south? Everyone was incomparably shocked. Originally, they thought that Shao Yi would be able to win easily, but from the looks of it now, Shao Yi's strength had increased by another level. Shao Yi was completely suppressed by Shao Yi, and they had never seen Shao Yi being beaten to this state before. Seems like Zijin City is really going to change. However, as an immortal emperor, how could he not have a trump card? That would be looking down on immortal emperors too much. Right when Death Mage was slowly walking towards Shao Yi, his body suddenly stopped, and he dodged to the side. However, he was still too slow, his left arm was neatly cut off and fell onto the ground. Chapter 101. When the spectators in the distance saw the Xianyuan sword, they all gasped. A few years ago, there were rumors that the Xianyuan sword had appeared. Who would have thought that it would fall into Shao Yi's hands? If it wasn't for the fact that he was so strong today, no one would have thought of this. This Shao Yi really hid his strength deeply, and that armor he was wearing was definitely not ordinary. This trump card was simply a king's trump card. Looking at his opponent, he had lost an arm due to his carelessness. Other than the black robe and the sickle in his right hand, he had nothing else on him. The difference in equipment was too big. Not only would Xiao Yi not lose tonight, but he would also become famous. His reputation would be even higher than before, and the Xiao family's status would also rise because of this battle. Not to mention the other chain reactions. In actuality, the majority of the spectators hoped that Xiao Yi would lose. The current situation required a breakthrough, and tonight was a rare opportunity, just that right now, at this moment, Xiao Yi was holding the Xianyuan sword. The sword was releasing a faint light, and with his golden robe and silver armor, he was like a god descending to the mortal world. Just standing there would cause people to feel fear. But Xiao Yi was shocked. That sneak attack just now could have killed the opponent, but the opponent had discovered it. It was just a broken arm, and from the looks of it, it didn't seem to be of much use. However, he had already taken out the Xianyuan sword and the mystic tortoise strange armor. One was shockingly powerful, while the other had explosive defense. He didn't believe that he couldn't kill this skeleton. I didn't think that I, Xiao Yi, couldn't be low-key anymore. After tonight, the Xiao family will definitely rise to glory once more. Although the plan has been brought forward, it is not a big deal. Let the world witness the true strength of this emperor. The skeleton in front of him was only a stepping stone for him to reach the pinnacle, nothing more. Death Mage turned his head around and took a look at the severed arm on the ground. He felt very surprised, but at the same time, he was also very excited. This human in front of him had finally aroused his desire to fight. He picked up his severed arm and placed it to the side. Then, he took off his black robe and carefully placed his precious phone on it. However, he still couldn't help but open it to take a look. It was still a score of 0. God damn it. Xiao Yi silently looked at Death Mage's actions. However, when he saw Death Mage turning on his phone again and hearing the commentator's voice, Xiao Yi felt like his lungs were going to explode from anger. This was a very serious battle. Could they keep their hearts on it? But looking at the skeleton, there was no heart at all. How could such a creature appear in this world? It was unimaginable. The spectators also felt a chill down their spines. They had seen skeletons before, but they were just small evil spirits that could be poked to death with a finger. However, the skeleton in front of them had refreshed their worldview. Could it be that it was a Bone King? A divine artifact like the Xianyuan sword could only cut off one of its arms. Unbelievable. With the death scythe in his hand, Death Mage walked towards Xiao Yi and stopped 10 meters away from him. GGG, Royal Translation, since you're good at close combat, I'll play with you. The Death Mage was definitely a high-ranked magician, and his specialty would definitely be magic attacks. However, the Death Mage was a bit of a slouch. Actually, every magician had the heart of a warrior in their heart. Kakik. Royal Translation, High-Level Power Enhancement. Kakik. Royal Translation, High-Level Speed Boost. Kakik. Royal Translation, High-Level Long-Lasting Support. Kakik. Royal Translation, Top-Notch Defense Enhancement. Xiao Yi stared blankly at the Death Mage who was crying out weirdly. However, every time the Death Mage cried out, a different light would appear on its body. After the light flashed for more than 10 times, Xiao Yi finally came back to his senses. This skeleton was very weird, but Xiao Yi also discovered that the Death Mage needed to chant when it was releasing magic. As long as the distance between the Death Mage and the Death Mage got closer, Xiao Yi would be able to gain the upper hand. As for the Death Mage's scythe, I reckon that the Death Mage's scythe is just a decoration. Right now, Xiao Yi's speed was a few times faster than before, and he immediately disappeared from where he was standing. A trace of red light flashed past Death Mage's hollow eyes as he raised the Death Scythe in his hand high up. Boom! A majestic black light soared into the sky and broke through the dark clouds above. The moonlight once again shone onto the ground, and under the moonlight, the Death Scythe blossomed with a silver light. This wasn't just a simple light, the entire Death Scythe changed from black to silver. The eyes of the spectators who were a few miles away almost popped out. What is going on? How can a skeleton be so awesome, to be able to pierce through the sky with just a slight movement? However, in the next second, everyone was so frightened that they retreated a few miles away. Death Mage could be seen raising the Death Mage's scythe and fiercely slashing it forward. The huge might of the scythe spread out in a fan shape. Boom, boom, boom. Immediately, a series of rumbling sounds rang out in the world, shaking everyone's heart. Wave after wave of air was like a surging giant beast, engulfing everything in front of it. Starting from beneath Death Mage's feet, everything in front of Death Mage's body disappeared. The mountain that was still there just a moment ago had already been evaporated. The might of the Death Mage's scythe was actually so terrifying, everyone was so frightened that they retreated frantically to prevent themselves from getting injured. However, Xiao Yi's figure gradually appeared and stood steadily in the sky. The mystic tortoise armor blossomed with a bit of light, and the cloak on his back slowly fluttered. The spectators couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Such a powerful might, and he is actually not injured in the slightest. As expected, Xiao family's family head is formidable. However, no one saw that there was a trace of blood on Xiao Yi's face. Xiao Yi, who was standing in the sky, looked down at Death Mage, and the astonishment in his eyes was unable to be concealed. Just now, I wanted to engage in close combat with Death Mage, and I didn't expect that Death Mage would actually make such a move. This is simply terrifying to the extreme. Not only is this Death Mage capable of long-range combat, he is also capable of close combat. Just who the fuck is this Death Mage? Just when Xiao Yi was feeling furious, he suddenly felt a killing intent coming from above his head. Xiao Yi's gaze became serious, and the Xian Yuan sword in his hand immediately slashed towards the sky. Bang! The golden Xian Yuan sword and the silver-white death scythe collided head-on, and the resulting shockwave spread out in all directions. Trees were uprooted one after another, and even the people who were standing a few miles away could feel the scorching heat rushing towards their faces. This is a true expert. On the battlefield, Death Mage looked at his scythe, and a crack actually appeared on it after being slashed by Xiao Yi's weapon. What a good weapon. Xiao Yi also saw this, and he sneered. This emperor's weapon is Xian Yuan's sword, how can it be blocked by a small scythe like yours? However, Xiao Yi forgot one thing, just how powerful was Xian Yuan's sword? It was only able to cause a crack on Xiao Yi's weapon, and that was enough to prove that Xiao Yi's weapon was not ordinary. Of course, Xiao Yi would be immensely pleased with himself. After all, he had subconsciously placed Xiao Yi on the same level as him, and when he was able to cause damage to Xiao Yi, he would definitely feel extremely pleased. Chapter 102. When it comes to close combat, Xiao Yi was indeed a veteran. Death Mage was being a little too careless in this aspect. It was clear that he was underestimating his opponent. However, Death Mage, who had all sorts of buffs, was not someone to be trifled with. Die. Xiao Yi's killing intent surged. The Xianyuan sword in his hand felt its master's killing intent, and the light on the sword became even more dazzling. The technique that Death Mage was using was incomparably simple, even a child would know about it. Other than slashing, it was just slashing. Right now, the two of them were competing to see who would reveal a flaw first. However, both of them were people who had been through hundreds of battles, so how could it be that easy for them to reveal a flaw? Not a single person could be seen in the entire battlefield, and one could only hear the deafening loud sounds, and the ground that was collapsing in all directions. The people who were watching the battle were all stupefied. To demand a debt to this extent, there really isn't anyone else who can do this. The two of them immediately separated from each other. The scythe in Death Mage's hand was already severely damaged, and the blade of the scythe was uneven. Furthermore, a few of Death Mage's ribs had been broken, and his situation was not very good. Furthermore, Death Mage seemed to have exhausted a bit of his strength. However, Xiao Yi was not in a good state either. His golden robe had already been torn into pieces, and the mystic tortoise strange armor that he was wearing was filled with cracks, just like a spider web. Without the defense of the mystic tortoise strange armor, how would Xiao Yi be able to withstand Death Mage's crazy attacks? Furthermore, Xiao Yi's current situation was more or less the same as Death Mage's. After a long period of consumption, Xiao Yi was starting to show signs of fatigue. The amount of spiritual qi in his body was also running out. He quietly took out a pill and stuffed it into his mouth. Xiao Yi felt his spiritual energy slowly recovering, but it was useless. He had to finish the battle quickly. Ha! Xiao Yi shouted, and the Xianyuan sword in his hand shone brightly again. Xianyuan art, furious slash. Xiao Yi's eyes immediately turned golden, and his entire body leapt up high into the air. The sword that he was holding with one hand became a two-handed sword, and the powerful pressure that he emitted caused the ground that Death Mage was standing on to collapse. This time, Xiao Yi didn't attack Death Mage, but the weapon in Death Mage's hand. Because Xiao Yi felt that Death Mage's weapon was on the verge of breaking. As long as Death Mage's weapon was cut off, Death Mage's disadvantage would be revealed. This was the difference between their equipment. Xiao Yi was wearing a full set of godly equipment, while Death Mage's entire body was filled with skeletons. If it wasn't for the fact that Xiao Yi was buffed with magic, Death Mage would have long been chopped into pieces by the Xianyuan sword. However, Death Mage also knew that he did not have much mana left, and his mood was exceptionally terrible. This damned human actually made me so miserable. Boom! The two weapons clashed against each other again, and just like what Xiao Yi had expected, Death Mage's weapon was instantly cut into two. The silver-white light disappeared, and Death Mage's weapon returned to its original black color. When Death Mage saw that his scythe was cut into two by a human, he immediately let out a roar that would make people tremble with fear. Black fog began to emit out from Death Mage's entire body. Death Mage had already lost his rationality. If Master were to find out that he still ended up like this after dealing with a human, where would his face be? Where would his honor's face be? Damned humans, go to hell. Use your blood to wash away your shame. A huge amount of magic power burst out from Death Mage's body, and the people who were a few kilometers away immediately felt as if a small mountain was pressing down on their bodies. Without caring about anything else, they immediately activated their movement techniques and immediately ran for their lives. However, when they were running for their lives, every single one of them coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood. And Xiao Yi, who was the closest to Death Mage, was able to sense the craziness of Death Mage even more clearly. His gaze was filled with shock and fear. I never thought that Death Mage would be this abnormal. If Death Mage had used his full strength from the start, I might not have been able to defend against him. But now... Xiao Yi quickly stuffed a few pills into its mouth. Right now, he could only fight with his life on the line. If it didn't die, then he would die. Xianyuan art, blood sacrifice. This was the move that Xiao Yi did not want to use the most. It was a move that would cause him to lose 3,000 of his life force. Although he could instantly increase his strength, the side effect was that his lifespan and cultivation would decrease. If he were to use this move, he might not even be able to defeat Tang Wushuang. However, he had no choice but to use it. Xiao Yi grabbed onto the Xianyuan sword with his left hand, and fresh blood immediately gushed out from the Xianyuan sword. The Xianyuan sword was like a gluttonous child as it continuously sucked the blood out of the Xianyuan sword. Xiao Yi's complexion quickly turned pale. However, in just an instant, a power that could destroy the heavens and earth surged out from his body. This power made Xiao Yi feel as if he was back in the past. Xianyuan art, divine destruction. Xiao Yi's body could be seen emitting a golden light, and it actually merged with the Xianyuan sword. The Xianyuan sword flickered with a multicolored light, and the sword qi spread out in all directions, bringing with it an aura that could crush everything in the world. The temperature in the surroundings suddenly rose, and the aura of a monarch was being emitted from the Xianyuan sword, causing people to have the urge to worship it. However, all of this was useless against Death Mage. Right now, he only wanted to wash away his shame, even if he had to pay the price. This time, Xiao Yi's timing was very good. He made a decisive decision and used this move without any hesitation. After all, Death Mage was still in the middle of chanting the Xianyuan sword, and he had yet to complete the super magic. In the next moment, Xianyuan's sword flew towards Death Mage, and everything that it passed through turned into dust. Soon after, the Xianyuan sword fiercely collided with the edge of the black mist, and a dazzling light immediately blossomed out from the Xianyuan sword, lighting up the night sky once again. Death Mage resisted the power of the Xianyuan sword with all his might. However, he had lost his left arm, and adding on the fact that his magic was exhausted, he was completely unable to resist against Xiao Yi, who had used a forbidden technique. Xianyuan's sword slowly pierced through the layer of black mist and headed straight towards Death Mage, who was within the black mist. Your Honor, Master. Subordinate has failed in his task. The scorching heat emitted out from Xianyuan's sword instantly turned Death Mage into dust, and after the black mist dispersed, the world returned back to normal. Splash, splash, splash. Heavy rain suddenly started pouring down from the sky, and the rain fell onto the ground that looked like tofu dregs, and onto a person's body. The black tortoise bizarre armor that Xiao Yi was wearing was already completely broken apart, and only the shoulder guard was left. Right now, Xiao Yi was supporting himself with Xianyuan's sword, and blood was flowing out from his mouth non-stop. I didn't expect that layer of black mist to be so powerful, to be able to heavily injure me once again, making my situation even worse. Luckily, I managed to kill the black mist without any mishaps. Just that, the injuries that Xiao Yi received will probably take at least 10 years to recover. Cough, cough, cough. Xiao Yi let out a violent cough, and with every cough, blood would spurt out from his mouth. Xiao Yi's entire body was pale and powerless, just like a corpse. Although he managed to kill Death Mage, he wasn't any better off. Even his strongest defense, the Mystic Tortoise Bizarre armor, was shattered, and not to mention the side effects of the forbidden technique, Xiao Yi paid a painful price in exchange for victory. Congratulations to Xiao family head for defeating a strong enemy, we admire you greatly. Congratulations to Xiao family head, we admire you greatly. Xiao family head's heroic bearing is extraordinary, we admire you wholeheartedly. A few figures landed beside Xiao Yi, and Xiao Yi had no choice but to prop his body up and pretend to be very relaxed. Furthermore, he even had to carry a smile on his face. However, this smile of his caused the injuries within his body to worsen, causing him to be unable to vomit blood out. Right now, I am very weak. If they want to attack me, I don't even have the strength to fight back at all. Furthermore, who doesn't want to possess a treasure like Xianyuan's sword? To be able to kill such a strong enemy is more than enough to prove everything. Xiao Yi straightened his back and coldly swept his gaze across everyone. The latter couldn't help but take a step back. I didn't expect that this Xiao Yi still has strength. Chapter 103. Enduring the dizziness, Xiao Yi left the scene. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that Xiao Yi would kill someone. On the way back, Xiao Yi couldn't endure it anymore and vomited blood. After eating a few medicinal pills, he felt a bit better and found a water source to wash his face. He didn't want his wives to worry. Even though he had wiped off the bloodstains, he still exuded a sickly aura, as if he was about to die. After returning to the Xiao mansion, Xiao Yi was in a daze. It was as if he could faint at any moment, as if he was drunk. The 6 wives sat in the front hall, anxiously waiting for their husbands to return. When they saw their husbands stumbling over, the wives immediately went forward to support them. Brother Xiao, what's wrong? Where are you hurt? Nangong Sini's expression changed greatly. This was the first time she saw Xiao Yi so weak. Sini, hurry up and support Brother Xiao. Let me see. The woman who spoke was precisely Shu Nan. Her medical skills were outstanding, and back then, she also fell in love with Xiao Yi's medical skills. Xiao Yi replied weakly, I'm fine. Hold him down. Shu Nan said in a tender voice. She placed her delicate hand on her husband's wrist, and her expression immediately changed. It was too heavy. It was already a miracle that he was still alive. Shu Nan, how is Brother Xiao? Yu Qi asked hurriedly. Xiao Yi gave Shu Nan a look. Shu Nan sighed, Brother Xiao is fine. He will be fine after a few days of rest. However, in his heart, he was afraid that he would not recover even after a few years of rest. But the other wives would rather believe this result. In Long and City's midnight snack stall, Wei Chang and Tang Wei sat at the side of a small table, eating skewers. Tang Wei told Wei Chang about the interesting things that happened when she was young, and Wei Chang listened attentively and drank a mouthful of beer from time to time. Instantly, Wei Chang frowned. Uncle Wei, do you feel uncomfortable? Wei Chang smiled. Maybe I drank too much cold beer. I'm going to the toilet. Uncle Wei, I told you not to drink too much ice. Let me help you over. Xiao Tang, your Uncle Wei, am not that weak. Just sit here and wait for me. Wei Chang pressed Tang Wei down, and the moment he turned around, his face was extremely black. Death Mage actually died. How was this possible? After walking into the toilet inside the supper stall, Wei Chang closed the door and said in a deep voice, Evil spirit, Death Mage. A black vortex appeared on the ground. The black robe, the scythe of death with the smell of death appeared once again. Of course, there was also the skeleton. Master. Death Mage shouted out with deep regret, and prepared to greet Yi Hua. Wei Chang shouted in a low voice, All right, stop kneeling, the ground is very dirty. What's going on? I told you to collect a debt and kill someone. How did you end up killing yourself? Wei Chang was unable to understand. Death Mage's strength was not weak. Even if he couldn't defeat Death Mage, he should still be able to run away. Yet, he was actually killed by someone. Master, I'm suffering too. Master, it is subordinate who has underestimated the enemy, and has brought shame to his honor and master. Let subordinate complete this mission, and then use my death to atone for my sins. To be honest, Death Mage didn't want to be summoned by his master again. It was too shameful. This was what it meant to be reckless. He lost completely because of his recklessness. Wei Chang's mood wasn't very good either. If his honor were to know that there was such a process in the mission this time around, I wonder what kind of rage his honor would have. Wei Chang seemed to have already heard his honor's curses. Enough, I don't want to listen to your explanation. You better keep this matter to yourself. If this matter were to be spread out, the first person that I will kill is you. Who would dare to talk about such a shameful matter to others? Just how shameful would that be? Master, be at ease, subordinate will keep my mouth shut. Wei Chang paused for a moment, then asked while wrinkling his brows, Is that Xiao Yi really that powerful? Even you are not his match? Master, that Xiao Yi is indeed not bad. He is the strongest human that subordinate has ever seen. However, subordinate did not lose to him, rather, subordinate lost to him. Death Mage said embarrassedly. This is all because master's requirements are too high. I can't kill Xiao Yi, I can only cripple Xiao Yi. Controlling Xiao Yi is very difficult. Wei Chang couldn't help but slap onto Death Mage's skull. Who did you learn this kind of conduct from? I will give you one last chance. If you are still unable to complete this mission, then you will have to stay in purgatory forever. I will obey Master's command. Death Mage held back a stomach full of anger. This damned human actually caused me to be reprimanded by Master. If it wasn't for Master only ordering me to kill one person, would have definitely slaughtered all of them. Go. Seeing that subordinate had disappeared, Wei Chang rubbed onto the bridge of his nose. In the end, didn't his honor still lose because of being reckless? Sigh, which of the 7 sins isn't reckless? In actuality, Death Mage can't be blamed, his understanding of human nature is too little. Perhaps it is time for him to find a girlfriend. Death Mage expressed that I am not interested in women, I am only interested in balls. Knock, knock, knock. Uncle Wei, is your diarrhea very bad? I bought medicine for you just now. Tang Wei knocked on the door and shouted out tenderly. Hearing Tang Wei's voice, Wei Chang, who had a bad temper, gradually relaxed. Opening the door, Wei Chang smiled and said, Xiao Tang, I am fine now. Uncle Wei, why does your complexion look so bad? Let me bring you to the hospital. Tang Wei touched onto Wei Chang's cheek and said with concern. Wei Chang held onto Tang Wei's small hand. There is no need to go to the hospital, I will send you back first. Are you really fine? Tang Wei was still very worried. Wei Chang pinched onto Tang Wei's nose. I am fine. When Death Mage arrived at the scene of the accident once again, he discovered that the damned human had disappeared, and his phone was destroyed as well. Death Mage was simply about to go crazy. That is an Apple X that I bought while enduring the pain in my heart. Not only does this damned human want to pay me back 50 billion and a human life, he also wants to pay me back my Apple X. After finished speaking, Death Mage disappeared from where he was and arrived at the entrance of Shao residence. The two security guards were stupefied. At the front hall, Shu Nan was currently helping Shao Yi bandage up his external injuries. Shao Yi's internal injuries could only be slowly nursed back to health. Cindy, I will be going into closed-door training soon, and I won't be able to accompany you and Yun, to register for the tournament tomorrow. Shao Yi said gravely. After going through this battle, Shao family will definitely reach new heights. However, I have to recover my strength as soon as possible. Nangong Cindy said concernedly, Brother Shao, you can go into closed-door training with a peace of mind, I will take care of the matters at home. And, with you two here, I can be at ease. Shao Yi stretched out his hand and touched onto his beloved wife's cheek, and doting could be seen within his gaze. Meanwhile, Nangong Cindy was enjoying her husband's caress very much. Gigi, immediately, a strange sound transmitted into the front hall. The tender expression on Shao Yi's face froze, and the 6 wives turned their heads and looked towards the entrance. Sickle. Black robe. It was a strange sound. Death Mage walked towards the front hall step by step, and stopped when he was 5 meters away from the front hall. The atmosphere in the front hall immediately froze. Shao Yi looked at Death Mage who was walking towards him foolishly, and his mind was in a daze. Didn't I turn Death Mage into powder? How long has it been since then? Why did Death Mage come out again? Or could it be that Death Mage has a brother? GGG, Imperial Translation. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Shao Yi couldn't be any more familiar with this kind of sound. Why did Death Mage come back to life? Why is it like this? In order to kill Death Mage, I paid a painful price. Why did Death Mage come back to life in an instant? No, this isn't fair. The heavens aren't fair. Chapter 104. Death Mage stood there woodenly and didn't make any movements. It was as if he was a relative or friend who had come to visit him. However, everyone present knew that he didn't come with good intentions. Shao Yi's wives knew that they weren't a match for this monster, but they still protected him. If he wanted to die, he would kill them first. If Lai Gu was here, he would definitely take Shao Yi in and train him well. Lai Gu wasn't a picky eater, and furthermore, all of Shao Yi's wives were beautiful and alluring. It was a pity that Death Mage wasn't interested in them. Get out. You're not welcome here. Yu Qi didn't know where she got her courage from, but she shouted in a deep voice. Shao Yi propped himself up from the chair. He was afraid that he would be doomed tonight. Let them out. Your opponent is me. Shao Yi coldly said. However, the moment he spoke, his wound opened up and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Brother Shao, you can't fight anymore. Shu Nan immediately supported her husband and used her white sleeves to wipe off the blood stains. Her eyes were filled with worry. Yu Qi nodded. Brother Shao, although we don't know much about martial arts, we can still fight with this monster. Shao Yi gasped for breath. Now wasn't the time to be a hero. He had to run as fast as he could. Why are you so disobedient? Let's go. Shao Yi cried out in pain. He didn't know that he would have such a day. In the past, it was always him who made others suffer, but now it was his turn. Was this heaven's retribution for him? Nangong Cindy supported her husband and said softly, Brother Shao, even if we die, We will die together. Yes. That's right. The eyes of the 6 women were firm. They did not wish to be born on the same day, but they wished to die on the same day. Why are you doing this, Cindy? Take good care of Yuchi, be a good girl and give birth to your daughter. Xiao Yi's tone was almost pleading. However, the girls had already made up their minds. If they were to die, they would die together. Do you want me to kneel down and beg you? Xiao Yi roared angrily and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Yuchi's white pajamas were instantly dyed red. Brother Xiao, Brother Xiao. Right when the 2 of them were reluctant to part with each other, Death Mage finally moved. Stretching out his hand, Death Mage pointed towards the phone that was on the table. Everyone was shocked. Xiao Yi said in a deep voice, "Give it the phone." Nangong Sini picked up the phone and passed it to Death Mage. When Death Mage held onto the phone, he discovered that it was not unlocked, so he gestured to Nangong Sini. This handphone belonged to Shu Nan. Looking at the skeleton in front of her, she did not feel any fear in her heart. She picked up the handphone from the skeleton's hand and scanned her own face, then heavily threw the handphone onto Death Mage's hand. GGG, Imperial Translation, he has character. He reached out his hand and tapped on the screen of his phone, and the screen lit up. It was still scrolling. It was still the same word. Pay back the money. Everyone was startled. I had originally thought that the other party was here to take revenge, but I didn't expect that the other party was still here to return the money. Why is he so stubborn? Xiao Yi heaved a sigh of relief. If it was just money, then it was fine. Sini, prepare the money. Xiao Yi said weakly. Nangong Sini frowned. We don't have that much cash. Even if we want to raise money, it's not something that can be done in a short while. Then we'll use real estate to pay for it, Xiao Yi said. Although it was not worth it, it was the only hope to save his family. Nangong Sini nodded her head. Suddenly, she felt that Wang Debao was too much of a mechanism. A few days ago, I was still laughing at him for being stupid, but I didn't expect that he was actually a smart person. Regret, I blame myself for randomly coming up with this idea. Wait a moment, I'll go and write the transfer letter. Nangong Sini said coldly. Death Mage actually nodded his head, causing everyone to let out a sigh of relief. As long as the problem could be solved with money, then it wouldn't be a problem. Suddenly, Death Mage saw a television that was placed at the side. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Death Mage walked over, turned on the television, and selected CCTV 5. However, the match had just ended, and when Death Mage saw the score on the television, his entire person felt bad. Forget about being killed once, I even lost the ball. I even lost all of my belongings. I can't tolerate this anymore. I'm going to castrate those useless humans. They can't even win against South Korea. Xiao Yi was feeling very bad right now. From the start until now, the other party had already watched the World Cup 4 times, and 2 of those times were even during the World Cup. Why is it so attached to the World Cup? Why did I lose to such a strange opponent? Why? My illustrious reputation has been ruined tonight. Bang! Death Mage smashed the coffee table with a punch, giving everyone a fright. Death Mage thought that the other party was going to flip out, but who knew that he would walk back and forth, point at the television and let out that horrifying voice, seemingly as if he was cursing at the television. After cursing at the television, Death Mage decided that he was going to get back his money. Those money that they had was illegal. I have the right to get it back. After I finish this matter, I will go and get back my debt. In any case, I had gambled 1,000 RMB, and that was all of my belongings. Recently, Master has been giving me very little work, and I am not able to earn much money. I am even almost unable to pay the electricity bill. And this time, I am also unable to draw any water from the 50 billion that I stepped on. That is His Honor's money. Just thinking about it makes me scared. Death Mage turned his head around and took a look at the beauties. The things that are on their necks, fingers, and wrists, those things seem to be quite valuable. Xiao Yi's wives naturally noticed Death Mage's gaze. Although Death Mage doesn't have any eyeballs, they were still able to feel that Death Mage was looking at their bodies. This shameless skeleton. Death Mage hugged onto his side and walked here and there. Sometimes, he would even walk to the side of the 6 women and look at their progress. Death Mage was acting just like a loafer. Xiao Yi found it hard to believe that he would lose to an opponent like this. Death Mage doesn't even have a bit of the demeanor of an expert. In any case, I have killed you once, but you don't even look at me, you are simply a bastard. Did your hatred get eaten by dogs? About half an hour later, Nangong Sini finished drafting the transfer documents, and even stamped her official seal and signature on the documents. Nangong Sini handed over the documents and said coldly, the market value of these 3 companies is more than 50 billion. Only more, no less. Death Mage didn't even look at the documents and kept them into his bosom, then pointed at the beauties. The 6 beauties couldn't help but take a step back. Xiao Yi even slammed the table and stood up, but very quickly, he vomited out a mouthful of blood and sat back down. Right now, Death Mage just wanted to say, the thoughts of you humans are too dirty. After Death Mage signaled to the women finally understood. This skeleton wants jewelry. However, these jewelry were all given to them by Xiao Yi. Although they were a bit reluctant to part with these jewelry, but no matter how reluctant they still had to hand over the jewelry. Death Mage happily kept the jewelry, then picked up his phone and tapped on it again. He was preparing to do one last thing. Death Mage took out his phone. Collect interest. Xiao Yi and the others cursed at Death Mage for being shameless. These 3 companies are all worth more than 50 billion, and yet, Death Mage still wants to collect interest. However, when Xiao Yi saw the last few words on the phone, his heart sunk. 1 life. Death Mage seemed to have forgotten something as he typed out another message. Chapter 105. Death Mage recalled his master's instructions. It seems to be like this, if I didn't remember wrongly. Xiao Yi's entire body was shaking. This was going too far. He actually wanted him to kill the person he loved the most. Otherwise, all of them would die. Xiao Yi opened his bloodshot eyes wide and suddenly shouted, "Bastard! I'll fight it out with you. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Brother Xiao, don't move anymore, you will die if you continue like this." Shu Nan knew that her husband's injuries must have worsened again. "Don't pull me, I want to perish together with it." Xiao Yi rolled and crawled over to Death Mage's side, then grabbed onto Death Mage's bones and shouted angrily. Death Mage remained indifferent as he waited for them to make their choice. It has been a long time since I have heard such words from Death Mage, and I am feeling a bit nostalgic. Nangong Sini didn't pull her husband. She said softly, "Brother Xiao, you often saved me in the past. This time, it's Sini's turn to save you and the whole Xiao family." Xiao Yi turned his head in a daze and looked at his wife's gentle smile. Bits and pieces of their past flashed through his mind like a movie. No. No. Sini, you can't do this. Xiao Yi couldn't even stand up and crawled to his wife. Nangong Sini squatted down and combed her husband's hair. She gently wiped the blood from the corner of her husband's mouth. "Brother Xiao, to be able to know you, Sini has never regretted in this life. Although you were very annoying at the beginning, I still like you. After I leave, you have to take good care of Yun, understand?" Xiao Yi stretched out his trembling hand and caressed his wife's cheek. "Don't, we still have a long way to go, Yun cannot be without a mother." "Brother Xiao, Sister Sini, let me do it." Shu Nan took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. Yuqi couldn't stop crying. "Let me do it. Yuqi, you have a child. Let me do it. Let me do it, Brother Xiao." Nangong Sini's eyebrows furrowed as she lightly shouted, "All of you, shut up. Your mission in the future is to take good care of Brother Xiao. This was all my idea. If I had asked Brother Xiao to return the money, this wouldn't have happened. I should be the one to bear the consequences." Death Mage seemed to have become impatient from waiting. Hurry up and kill one of them so that I can go and collect the debt from the others. He, Imperial Translator, hurry up. Nangong Sini could tell that he was telling them to hurry up. She said softly, Brother Shao, let me do something for the Shao family. Otherwise, Yun will not be safe. Where there's life, there's hope. Don't look down on women. Nangong Sini was asking her husband to endure and wait for him to rise again. Brother Shao, Sini won't be able to take care of you in the future. You have to take good care of yourself and Yun. He's our only son. Nangong Sini, who had always been strong, couldn't help but burst into tears when she thought of her son. As an immortal emperor, Shao Yi had never cried before. But now, his face was full of tears and helplessness. Sini, let me kill you. How could I do it? Shao Yi cried out in pain. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth and his eyes were bloodshot. Nangong Sini immediately stood up, picked up the Xianyuan sword at the side, and then placed it in her husband's hand. Brother Shao, since things have come to this, do you want to see us all die? Do you want to see Yun die? Do you want to see the child in Yuchi's belly die? Since when did you become so indecisive? Shao Yi had never felt that the Xianyuan sword was so heavy. He looked at his wife and said, I can't do it, I really can't do it. Just when the Shao family was reluctant to part with the Xianyuan sword, a black whirlpool appeared in the hall. A figure walked out from the whirlpool, and his entire body was wrapped in black mist. The Shao family was all stupefied. Who is this? However, in the next second, they were even more shocked. Death Mage retreated a few steps and knelt on the ground. With both of his hands on the ground, he respectfully shouted, Master. That's right, the person who came was Wei Chong. He had just sent Tang Wei home and realized that his subordinates were not done with their business. Did something happen again? Thus, he specially came over to take a look. Shao Yi only felt that the world was spinning. This skeleton was already very powerful, and it actually made the black mist so respectful. Then, what realm was this black mist at? Shao Yi had never felt that he was so insignificant before. He felt that this black mist could kill him with a single finger. Just who are they? It's impossible that they are the people that man called over. How could this kind of expert be controlled by others? Wei Chong nodded. Death Mage stood up and took out his phone to type something. Then, he showed his phone. We pay our respects to Master. Everyone from the Shao family had their own dignity, but Death Mage had already released his might, causing everyone to kneel on the ground. Wei Chong looked at the person in front of him coldly. To actually dare to refuse to pay me back, you truly deserve to die. After taking over the document that Death Mage passed over, Wei Chong took a look at the document and kept it. Then, he said faintly, hurry up. Death Mage replied respectfully. And Wei Chong took another look at the document, then stepped into the black whirlpool and disappeared. Death Mage typed another word. Last minute. All of the women felt that they had provoked an extremely powerful person this time around. This was a feeling that they had never felt before. In the past, they felt that they still had the ability to fight back, but the person who just appeared did not even have the thought of fighting back. How could Shao Yi not have the same feeling? That person just now was completely capable of killing all of us, so why did he want me to kill my beloved woman? Could it be that you all aren't afraid of me taking revenge? What Wei Chong was least afraid of was taking revenge. If the person behind me comes, you will slowly kill the woman beside me. Brother Shao, don't take revenge for me, live on properly, we cannot afford to provoke them. Nangong Sini gave the most rational suggestion to Shao Yi. The other party is like a titan, and we are just ants. It is already a kind of leniency for them to not kill all of us. Only until death did Nangong Sini realize this point. Just how lucky is it to only kill one person? Without waiting for Shao Yi to react, Nangong Sini grabbed onto Xianyuan's sword that was in her husband's hand and fiercely pulled. TSK, this was the sound of a sharp object piercing into flesh. Xian Yuan's sword pierced through Nangong Sini's abdomen, and the tip of the sword that was dripping with blood appeared on Nangong Sini's back. Sini! Xiao Yi roared out as he looked at his own hand in disbelief. I killed my beloved. No. Xiao Yi hugged onto his wife and roared towards the sky, and tears of blood flowed out from the corner of his eyes. Nangong Sini, who was lying in her husband's embrace, revealed out a trace of a smile and said weakly, Brother Xiao, your embrace is still so warm. After finished speaking, Nangong Sini slowly closed her beautiful eyes, and Death Mage disappeared from Xiao residence as well. Death Mage was preparing to collect his debt. Xiao residence's main hall was filled with a sorrowful atmosphere. Xiao Yi sat on the ground and foolishly hugged onto his wife's corpse. Both of his eyes were already unfocused, and he looked as if he had become demented. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.